on the paddy cultivation. I think you all know that it is the staple food of Sri Lanka, and that is why we need to identify the import out major pests of rice.
Recording in progress.
So can I know about something about what you know about pests, especially? Who are they? What kind of creatures are known as pests? According to your idea, what will be the idea that you are having as a pest?
They have 3 body parts.
Yes, they are having so pests are who? So usually we can categorize them into different type of animals. So these are actually animals, but when it comes to their behavior in the morphological context, we can, of course, as you have mentioned, we can identify them as having different body parts that other animals do not have. So that is one thing. And especially these are insects, right? Especially these are insects, but in some cases, some mammals or some animals more than insects can be again categorized as pests also. But today we will be talking about actually these insect types, right? Insect types of pests. Maybe there are larger scale body parts are there in other animals, mammals. So they are also considered as pests. And in what instances we call them as pests? How we can identify a pest? Who are they, and what are their behaviors? How they can be identified as pests? So actually, it is something that you identify from the uh, harming for your crop cultivation or some sort of a maybe the livestock. However, so in this case, we will be talking about in crop cultivations. So if somebody, if a kind of a creature is damaging your crop, we identify that creature or animal, insect, or whatever the type as a pest, right? So pests are those who harm our crop cultivations. So whatever the type of a kind of an animal who is harming our crop cultivation will be considered as a pest. So here we will be talking about mainly about these insects, right? Major pests of rice. So I think you know about the rice plant. So it's belong to the grass family, and when it comes to its production, it's important for our country. So at some point in the past, we have been self-sufficient, but however, there have been much problems related to rice or the paddy cultivation, and so this one is one such, the pest and diseases, right? Yes, it harms. However, it harms the crops. It damages the crop parts. That is true. That is true. So when it comes to this paddy production, the rice production, number of problems are there in our country for not having the optimum amount of production in rice cultivation. But however, these pests and diseases are very common in rice cultivation, and they have contributed much for the uh, underproduction of this rice. So that is why we need to identify. So there are a number of pests, but we will go through some major pests. So they have a capacity to do some more harm other than the others. So it is really hard if you do not identify these major pests in a crop cultivation of rice. So they will do massive damage if you do not identify them. So that is the reason we need to identify the major pests of rice. So these are the major insect pests. So today we will be talking about insect pests, right? So they are considered as insects. I think you know about insects. So the so-called three body parts will be there in insects, right? So insect pests are uh, they are different, and actually I think you all know about life cycles. There are two main life cycles: the incomplete and the complete life cycles. So we need to identify their own life cycles and how we can damage the each stage. So that is how mainly, very briefly, if we say uh, to identify the ways to control them, right? And we, other than that, we need to identify their feeding materials, breeding stages, and where they do their breeding, and in what areas of the plant will be selected by them for their as their resting place or their living places, right? So these are the things that we need to identify in an insect pest. So brown plant hopper, maybe you have heard about this one, brown plant hopper. If not, we very briefly we say BPH. If you see BPH in literature, so it says about brown plant hopper, right? I have given the common name and the their scientific name. And yellow stem borer, rice leaf folder, rice gall midge, and paddy bug. So these are very common and major insect pests. So if we do not take action to control them, so they will maybe doing a higher infestation. We call infestations in insect pests. In diseases, we call infections, right? So diseases are infections, but insect pests. So these pests do infestations. So if you do not identify them in their correct uh, stages to control them, so it will do a massive damage to the crop cultivation, the paddy cultivation, right? Right? So these are adults, right? This is how they are usually seen in plants, right? So when you look at the rice plant, the paddy plant, so I have mentioned that it belongs to the family, the Poaceae, if not the grass family. It's a grass, right? So when it comes to this, the morphology of rice, it is a grass. So in this specific plant, you will see a stem part of course, but it is not a stem. We call it a culm, right? C-U-L-M, culm, because these leaves are having two parts, leaf blade and the leaf sheath, right? Leaf blade and the leaf sheath. What we see as outer leaf is leaf blade, right? Leaf blade and leaf sheaths are wrap around each other and form the culm. So that is the uh, stem part of the rice plant we see, right? So if you look at the middle section of this culm or the stem part, you won't see anything. It is not filled with something. It is wrapped around with one another and form the culm. So it seems like a stem, but if you look at the very middle of this stem, there's no anything inside filled. It is hollow, right? It's empty. So this type of leaf sheets that are wrapped around each other, so that will be the target area for this brown plant hopper, BPH, right? So we say that this one is a phloem feeder, right? We need to identify the, I mentioned that we need to identify the feeding material, right? Yes, so at the end we will share this materials, right? So that will be shared, yes. And so when it comes to identifying their life cycle. So this is known as a phloem feeder. I think you all know about phloem, right? Phloem is a kind of a vascular tissue that we are having in plants. It is mandatory. It should be there because it's one of the mandatory vascular systems in a plant, right? So can you identify another section which is important in vascular system in a plant?
Xylem.
Of the body of the plant. So this phloem is one such. We have another main one.
Xylem.
Yes, xylem. True and correct. And the xylem, right? Xylem and the phloem. So these are the two main vascular systems in a plant, right? So xylem is responsible for the transportation of water, right? Water along with the nutrients, the minerals. So mainly, it's a one-way transportation. So usually these things will be absorbed by the root system from the growing medium, and then it will be transported to the top of the plant, right? It's a one-way transportation. There's no top to down transportation in xylem. But when it comes to phloem, it can be considered as a two-way transportation, right? So phloem is responsible for the transportation of the photosynthetes produced by the plants. We call them photosynthetes because it's the end result of photosynthesis, right? So end result of photosynthesis will be actually glucose, and when it comes to the transportation, it will be converted into sucrose, right? So this photosynthesis will be mainly happening in leaves, and then this the product of glucose will be converted into sucrose, and then it will be transported throughout the body of the plant. So we call it the actual thing that is happening in phloem as the source sink relationship, right? So source means some instances it may be some having a good relationship. If not, a plant cannot function. So this phloem, right? So in this case, this phloem is responsible to transport sucrose, right? Sucrose will be transported throughout the body through the phloem. So their feeding material, they like to have this transporting sucrose as their feed, right? So that is how we identify their feeding material. So that is why they used to hang on this stem part of the rice plant. So then they have, I think you have studied about their mouth parts, right? So these are we call sucking insects. They suck the cell sap, right? So they suck the phloem sucrose, the so-called chemical that is transported is sucrose. So these mouth parts of this brown plant hopper, so these are adults actually. So these are adults and they are having a kind of an incomplete life cycle. They are having eggs, nymphs and adults, right? Nymphs are almost similar for adults, but the body size will be lesser than the adults. But both of these stages, nymphs and adults will do the damage because I think you can identify that eggs. usually cannot do a harm. Stagnant, right? They are immobile, but nymphs and adults are mobile stages. They can move everywhere. They can move anywhere. So they can exchange to from one plant to another and do the harm. So usually these eggs are not considered as a harming stage, right? But these nymphs and adults, and sometimes in complete life cycle, you will find there's another life stage called the larvae, right? Larvae, incomplete one, the eggs will turn into larvae and then pupae and then the adult. So mostly these larval, pupal and the adult stages will do the harm, right? So these are phloem feeders. So they like to have this uh, the so-called transported chemical throughout the phloem as their feeding material. And leaves, if they do their harm, what happens? Leaves dry and turn brown. So they suck the cell sap from the phloem, and because of that, transported, their damage will do some harm for the leaves because in some instances the this xylem will also get damaged, and the water transportation throughout the body will be uh, much problematic because of the harm. And as they are doing much harm at the stem stage, so the leaves are affected badly by their attack, right? So then leaves try to turn brown. And in heavy infestation, so having these in little amounts will not do the harm, but they can have a kind of a higher percentage of speed in breeding, right? They breed themselves very fast. So these insects are breeding very fast. So they can, their life cycle is also very limited. So they are not living much time, but at the same time, they will do breeding. So because of that, their next generation will produce very fast. So that will eventually happen, and it is really difficult to catch one by one. And because of that, in a very limited time, they will increase their population. So it will lead to a heavy infestation, and it is called a hopper burn, right? Hopper burn is something that we can identify in a paddy cultivation very easily, right? So at the same time, uh, as they are sucking insects, they are considered as vectors, right? Vectors means so they can transport a kind of a, it is saying that they have the ability to have some connection with diseases, right? They can transmit diseases from one plant to another. So they do not know that when the plant is diseased or not, they will ultimately catch up with the kind of a stem and they will try to feed on it, right? So if a plant is diseased, if a plant is diseased, so the diseased materials, the microorganisms are everywhere in the plant body. So then once they have fed on such kind of a diseased plant, so their mouth parts will eventually get the disease, right? So after that, after some time, they will move to another, maybe a healthy plant. So that then these microorganisms in their mouth parts will transfer into the healthy plant. So that is how they will act as vectors. So especially viral diseases are mainly transmitted by this brown plant hopper. So at the same time, they will do another damage. So one damage is they are as a phloem feeder, and then they can act as a vector for viral diseases in the second instance. So most sensitive to attack in late vegetative and reproductive stage. So I think you know about the plant growth cycle. So mainly there will be firstly the vegetative phase and then the reproductive phase, right? So every plant need to pass the vegetative phase to enter into the reproductive stage. So when it comes to the rice plant, so in the late vegetative stage, right, it is getting ready to enter into the reproductive stage. So we are expecting there actually the fruit, right? We call them seeds, but actually it is the fruit. And in botanical sense, it will produce this the specific seed, right? We get the use of this seed as rice and the paddy grains, right? So these are paddy grains. So for that we need flowering and then the fruiting stage. So in the late vegetative stage, it is getting ready, much uh, having all the body parts of the plant repaired, and if there are any diseased or damaged part, all get repaired, and then it will enter into the reproductive stage. So reproductive stage starts with flowering, and then it will, after pollination, after the successful pollination, it will produce the fruit, right? Fruits in a kind of an inflorescence. So it is having an inflorescence. So this will produce the next fruit as the seed. So in this stage, the so-called sucrose transportation throughout the body is very fast and it is in a very good state, not like in other growth stages of the rice plant. So effective and efficient production of sucrose, especially the glucose, and their translocation, we call phloem translocation. So that is very efficient and effective at this late vegetative and the reproductive stage. So thereby, as the this brown plant hopper is much attracted towards this sucrose, the phloem transportation. So they are much like to have this growth stage as their feeding stage, right? So if you have a cultivation, you must and you need to be in a very good monitoring stage when your crop cultivation comes to the late vegetative and the reproductive stage, because that is the most sensitive stage of the rice plant to get attacked by brown plant hopper, right? And when it comes to their control, one of the most important controlling mechanisms for these pests, not for only this brown plant hopper, for almost all pests, is getting these resistant varieties, right? Specific resistant varieties have been developed for different pest types, and we have identified few resistant varieties of rice for brown plant hopper. So one of the high resistant varieties, this PTB33. So this is not a Sri Lankan variety, this is Indian variety, right? But however, this is considered as one of the highest resistant variety for brown plant hopper. And in Sri Lankan context, the produced varieties from Sri Lanka, so this moderate level resistance have been found in these uh, varieties of paddy. So these are produced from the Batalagoda Rice Research Institute. That is why we call them BG, right? The specific rice research station will be denoted by the English letters, which is denoted prior to the number, right? So this BG 379 to 300, 403, 304, 357, 358 and 360. So these varieties have shown moderate level of resistance to this brown plant hopper. So it means that they are morphologically, in structural sense, they are very hard for them to attack. Right? In the phloem, maybe it is much thick. Likewise, they have different characteristics in their plant parts. So it gives some more resistance for the brown plant hopper to get attacked, right? So this is one such major controlling mechanism of pests, and these are the photographs of this brown plant hopper attack. So this is known as the hopper burn, right? This is known as the hopper burn. So this will be arise when you do not have a proper monitoring mechanism, right? However, if there is a paddy cultivation, if you see this sort of uh, maybe a kind of a symptom when you look at your crop cultivation, so this may show you a higher infestation. It is not a very little one. This will be shown in very higher infestations only, right? So these are affected paddy fields. You only see these sort of scenarios if you do not have a proper mechanism to look after your crop cultivation. So in some areas of the country, there have been this kind of situations. Maybe you do not have the capacity to control it even, right? So their breeding speed is very high. They will, in a very little time, they will increase their population. So this is how it seems if there is a higher infestation, and this is called hopper burn. I think it was clear for you, the brown plant hopper. And we need to identify uh, the morphologically how we can identify them. These are just brown color ones. Brown color, we can identify easily them by how they are feeding on the cropping system and their morphology, right? Brown plant hopper. So then we will come to the other control methods. So the use of resistant varieties will be I think the most best controlling method for any kind of a pest attack, because it will naturally give the resistant nature for the plant to get attack from getting attacked from the so-called pest. So for this one, we have resistant varieties as we have discussed, and we can go for one of those, right? And the other one is flooding the fields. So we have many other control methods. Maybe other farmers will directly go into the use of insecticides, but it is the last option that we can go for. And as agriculturists, we do not um, encourage the use of insecticides in the first sense, right? In the first hand, we do not recognize that as a good way to control a pest, especially an insect pest. So we can go for the resistant varieties first, and even we have used resistant varieties sometimes, maybe we can get the incidence of this pest. So in that sense, we can go for other cultural practices, physical practices to get away from these conditions. So flooding the fields. So we can flood the field. Flood means we will increase the level of water in the field, right? So how this can be used as a control method? Anyone having the idea how we can control this one from increasing the level of water in the paddy field? So as you have seen, so these pests, right, nymphs and the adults, so they are feeding on the stem part, right, stem portion of the plant, and we can increase the level of water uh, up to a very high level. So then it is really hard for them to attach to the stem part while they are submerged in water, right? So if you flood the field in a very high level, so it will be really difficult for them to what? respirate, right? For the respiration, they require oxygen. But when you flood with water, it is really hard for them to respirate. Yes, low oxygen in water. So these insect types are not um, adapted to respirate oxygen from water. So they need oxygen from air as we, right? But when you flood the stem portion, when you flood the specific paddy cultivation in a very high level, it is very difficult for them to even get attached to the stem for a long time. And then, however, they will at some point die, right? So then we can increase the level of water in the field. We call it flooding, right? Flooding the fields. So if you increase the level of water at the later vegetative and the reproductive stage, so that will be something important. And the other one, light traps. So I think you have heard about light traps. So they are uh, much attracted to light, right? We need to identify their behaviors. So these adults and nymphs are much attracted to the light. So we can have light traps, especially in the night time. So they are attracted to the light and we can make a kind of a trap. So trap is a kind of a mechanism that we allow them to enter into the specific trap, but they do not have the ability to go away from the trap. It is called a trap. So we will display a kind of a light and allow them to get attracted towards the trap. And then after they have come in to the trap, they will not be able to go away again, right? So this is called a trap. Yes. So another idea. Uh, so won't with this be lead into the rotting of paddy? So this will be actually a kind of an intermittent flooding. So we cannot make the flooding for a long time. So it will actually do some harm. So in some instances, we have in paddy cultivation the practices of flooding. We can increase the level of water in the paddy field, but it is intermittent. Intermittent means you raise the level and again you will drain it out and again it will be rising and again you will drain it out, right? It is not for a longer time. You need to do it intermittent way, right? And regular monitoring, it is one such important thing. You need to go through your cultivation and look for any kind of an incidence of pest. It is called regular monitoring, not just for the pest, diseases for as well. So this regular monitoring is important. So if you do not monitor the cultivation, you don't identify any presence of them or symptoms of any disease or damage. So because of that, we need to have daily regular monitoring practices. That is how we identify their presence and damage. And even you do all these actions and you don't find the result, we need to go for other ways. So because before the use of insecticides, we can go for predators as well, but it is called biological control, the use of predators. So spider uh, species have been found that they feed on this brown plant hopper. So if you let these spiders go throughout your cultivation, they will find the exact their feeding material, the brown plant hopper, and they will feed on them. So then there will be eventually control of this brown plant hopper. But the disadvantage or the more major drawback is that these predators are much high in price. So some companies are there, they do breeding of these predators and they collect them. And once they get some orders from growers to have some, so they will sell them, right? So we need some more capital to get those spiders or predators as a biological control method. So this is not just the spiders as we see in our homes. So these are different types, spider types. So if you have the capacity to get the use of these ones, that will be known as a biological control. So if all these are going in vain, we need to go for the insecticides. So it is used only when and where essential, right? So that is the last stage actually. So this buprofezin, so this is a kind of a chemical. So we can apply according to the recommendation that it says, and you need to identify the amount of crop cultivation you are having, the acres or the hectares. So it depends, and we can go for the insecticide, the specified insecticides to control their population, right? So that is how we can control BPH, brown plant hopper. So hope it was clear for you. And we have another one, another major pest, yellow stem borer, right? Scarpophaga incertulus. So this is the scientific name. So this yellow stem borer. So it is a kind of a, from the name itself, it is saying it's a borer, right? Borer means it bore into some sort of a part, right? So this is actually a kind of a fly, and at the same time, it's, I think you have heard about and you have studied about the odors, right? And actually, the brown plant hopper we have studied, it's a hemipteran, right? Hemiptera order will be there for the BPH. And yellow stem borer is a kind of a, we call it a kind of a moth, right? So to which orders these moths and other sort of ones are belong to, if you can remember? Maybe you have heard about Lepidopterans, order Lepidoptera. So these are belongs to this order Lepidoptera, and this is a kind of a moth. And also the butterflies are also coming under this order. So this is having a complete life cycle, right? A complete life cycle is there in yellow stem borer, and because of that, they usually start with eggs, and then it comes to a larval stage, the larvae, right? Larvae, and then it will turn into a pupae and to an adult. So actually this larval stage, right? Larval stage is a kind of a worm-like structure is there. And in yellow stem borer, this stage is a kind of a caterpillar, right? So if you see caterpillars, so these are the larval stage. Actually, it's a kind of a very prominent larval stage that we can see. So if not, the other larval stages are seen as a worm, right? And a caterpillar bore into rice stem, and it makes the rice stem hollow out, right? So this is a caterpillar. So I think you all have seen caterpillars, right? Caterpillars bore into the rice stem. So it's a borer, right? The name itself, it says a borer. Borer means it will eat the things inside the a kind of a stem part, a kind of a structure, and make it hollow. That is the thing that the borer do, right? So these caterpillars bore into the rice stem and make it a more hollow thing, because it's not actually filled with something, but they will eat everything that they come across when they bore into the stem from top to bottom. So they attack both young plants and older plants, both types. And especially we have identified the damage in two different ways. So if they attack the young plants, it will produce, we call dead heart, right? Dead heart. And if they attack the older plants, we call it produce white heads, right? White heads. So we will see. So what type of things are they? And because of this boring into the rice stem, it makes the plant vigor go down, right? So there will be the hollow stem parts in the middle, and because of that, there will be no vigor strength to in the upright position of the plant. So because of that, they break and they become lodged. So often plants break and they become lodged. And in serious outbreaks, so serious outbreaks are not much prominent like in BPH. So no any serious outbreaks are found still, and it is very rare, right? So this is the adult of this Lepidoptera, and it's a moth, right? So when they land on a surface, there are two wings. So they have two wings. So these two wings are much flattened when they are on a kind of a surface landed on, right? So this is how the yellow stem borer is seen. A yellow color is there, and as their action is the boring into the stem, they are known as yellow stem borer. So if you see at the middle, so as they are boring into the, so they are, this adult stage is not much problematic, right? The specific harm will be done by the of these leaves, and then they will be converted into the larvae, and then these larvae, or the caterpillars, will go into the middle section of the stem. So because of that, if you look at the right top picture, the dead heart, right, the middle portion of the plant will be converted into the brown or yellow color. So it says that the lower portion, the bottom portions of the plant of the middle section is much damaged. Because of that, the water or the transportation of water, nutrients, and also the transportation, translocation of this photosynthesis will be damaged, will be problematic. So then it will be lead into a kind of a much dry condition of the middle part. We call it dead heart because the heart means the middle, right? Middle portion is dead. That is the meaning of dead heart, right? Middle portion is much uh, susceptible for this uh, dead heart condition, not like the surrounding outer parts. So they bow into the stem part in the middle, right? So that is how the dead heart is seen when you look at the plant, and in the middle section is like this. So you can identify that there may be the damage of yellow stem borer. And right bottom picture, it will show you the white head. So white head means, so we call these sections are panicles, right? Panicles. So these paddy or rice panicles will form the grains. So if you look at in some plants, in a kind of a crop cultivation, some parts are seen as in white color, not like in other the golden color or green color of the panicles. So in some plants, these panicles are seen in white color, right? So this whole portion is in white color and the grains are not filled, and this is actually a weak part of the body of the plant, right? As they are seen in white color, it is called as white. And when it comes to it emergence, that is why it's called as a head, right? So the most economically important part of the rice plant is the panicle, right? So because of that, the head means the panicle, right? White color panicles can be seen in the older plants. So in younger plant, it is really easy for them to have the dead heart condition. And in older plants means these plants have entered into the reproductive stage now from the vegetative phase. And because of that, they have entered into the reproductive phase and formed already the panicles. But these panicles are not like the proper panicles. They are white in color and less chlorophylls, less green color. and the grains have not been filled. So these two symptoms can be identified to identify or detect the yellow stem borers attack. Right? So this is another picture of this white heads. Right? So this is how it seems. The whole panicle is white in color, and the grains are not filled. So again, for the controlling methods, we can go for the resistant varieties. But actually, at this point, still no any resistant variety have been found, right? Uh, as because of the attack or the outbreak is not serious, it is not much important, I think, to find a resistant variety. We can identify the attack and easily control that, not like in BPH. And here, as we have discussed for the BPH for flooding, the totally opposite activity should be done for the controlling method for yellow stem borer. So what is it? Draining water out of the field, right? So what is the reason for this one? So in some cases we used to have flooded conditions, and some instances we need to drain the water out of the field. Can anybody explain how this is happening? So the thing is, so this adult fly will lay eggs in the surface of the leaves, right? Maybe in the leaf section they will lay their eggs. So after that, what happens? This when the time the hatching is coming, right? Hatching of eggs, we call the egg hatching. So the larvae will come out of eggs. So what happens? So after they have come out of the egg, they used to have a kind of a rolling mechanism around their body of the this laid area, or the plant leaf will be rolled surrounding their body. So then they cut the part of the leaf, and then they will have a kind of a roll like structure surrounding their body. So this is done by the larvae, right? So this larvae will then, what happens? They will cut the part of the leaf, and then they detach from the leaf. And however, they will fall onto the ground. But what happens if you are having water in the ground, they will drop into the water column on the surface of the water, and then because of the water currents, they are moving into another plant, right? So water currents will be there, so water will be a medium of transportation. So once they are fall onto the stream of water, the columns, the surface, and they will easily transported to another plant, right? So that is how they transport to another plant from one to another. So if you drain water out of the field, they will not have that medium. They will fall onto the ground. So then they will not have the ability to move towards the another healthy, especially healthy plant, right? Because they need much energy if they need to walk on the ground. Right? So the larval stage is not having much energy, and then what happens when they reach to another plant part? So they will, right, and then they eat whatever they meet in the phloem, or this the stem part in the middle, and they bow into the stem from top to bottom. So that is how the uh, dead heart and the specific, we have talked about white head. So these two conditions are happening if they attack to a plant, right? So to reduce that one, we need to have waterless or drained water in the field, right? So it is really hard for them to walk to another plant because they are having less energy. So the larvae needs more energy. That is why they used to go into the stem and eat whatever they meet. Right? They need energy. And then fallowing. Fallowing means what? Have you heard about fallowing? Fallowing is another main control method for yellow stem borer. What is fallowing? So in fallowing, we do it's a kind of a cultural practices in crop cultivation. So after you have done a crop cultivation of rice in the same field, after the harvesting, you need to keep that field uh, rice plant free for a limited time, right? So you should not start another cultivation after harvesting without a gap time, right? You need to keep that area as it is for a certain amount of time, and then you can start the cultivation again. It is called fallowing, right? What happens in fallowing? So if there are any plants, any plants that are affected by the yellow stem borer in this season, after you have harvested, they do not have the feeding material, right? They do not have the feeding material anymore in the ground, and then they will have to die. So after some time, you can introduce another cultivation so you don't find their presence again. So you need to give some amount of certain time to get away from the available amount of yellow stem borer, especially the larval stage, right? So that is called fallowing. So other than that, effective insecticides, we have discussed about insecticide usage for BPH also. So these insecticides, so these are very common, fipronil, carbosulfan and pentoid. So these are much effective towards this controlling of this larvae of the yellow stem borer. This is how you should control the yellow stem borer. So actually you need to identify whatever the pest is, the damaging stages. So here the damaging stage will be the larvae, right? So you need to control the larvae, but at the same time, if there are any other life stage is present in your cultivation, so it may lead to another population, increasement of the population. Then we have another one, right? Rice leaf folders, right? Rice leaf folder, right? So these are a kind of again uh, a lepidopteran, and the damaging stage of rice leaf folder will be a caterpillar. Again, it is having a complete life cycle. It's a worm-like structure, and caterpillars are doing the harm for the cultivation. So rice leaf folder. So name itself says that the rice leaf is going to be folded, right? So these caterpillars, they infest leaves, right? They feed on the mesophil. So mesophil layer, so it's a kind of a layer that is present in leaves, right? Mesophil layer. So these mesophil are a kind of a cell layer, a tissue. They are mainly responsible for the production of this photosynthesis, right? They can do photosynthesis very effectively. Mesophil cell layer of the uh, leaf, right? So they are having number of chlorophylls, chloroplasts in the cell, and then they can effectively do the photosynthesis. So these caterpillars, they like to feed on the mesophil cell layer of the leaves, right? That is why these rice leaf folders are attacking the leaf section. So we need to identify whatever, when you are studying about pests, you need to identify the specific crop part that they do the harm, right? So in this case, they will attack the leaves. So we need to protect the leaf section of the rice plant from rice leaf folders. So what they do is that they fasten edges of a leaf together, right? Once they have landed onto a leaf, the caterpillars, the larval stage, right? So caterpillars are the larval stage. So they land on a leaf, and once they have reached to a leaf, they used to fasten edges of a leaf together. So fastening means they are making it as a roll towards surrounding their body, right? And then the edges of the leaves will be uh, fastened together by a kind of a secretion of these larvae. They secrete some amount of some kind of chemical, and they use that chemical to fasten the two edges. And feeding reduces productive leaf area. So what they do is that, so inside of this leaf there are caterpillars, and then they feed on the mesophyll cell layer of the leaf, right? So the most of the chlorophylls will be absorbed by these mouth parts. So then the uh, the presence of these chlorophylls will be very less in plant leaves. So then it may lead to the less amount of photosynthesis of the leaves, and the productive leaf area. By that, the productive leaf area will get reduced because they feed on the mesophyll cell layer. So, according to the research, they have found that these rice leaf folders presence and their attack has been promoted by many environmental conditions, right? So these can be triggered or induced by proper or very favorable climatic conditions, environmental conditions for rice leaf folder. So if you go through the conditions, cloudy and humid weather, right? So if they do not receive enough sunlight and less humidity, right? Uh, so it will be a kind of an environmental condition that is favorable for rice leaf folder. So cloudy and humid weather, right? So these conditions increase the presence of this rice leaf folder. So if the cultivation receives much sunlight, that will not be creating much good environment for them to have good population. And shady locations. See, these cloudy conditions also provide this shadiness, right? Shady locations may be under a tree, right? If the rice cultivation is maintained under a very high and a very large tree, so it will be a sign that these rice leaf folders may be getting in to the cultivation. So the shadiness is not good for rice cultivation. And high nitrogen fertilizer. So what happens if you provide high amount of nitrogen fertilizer? So these growers or the farmers used to uh, provide more nitrogen for the plants. So it's a kind of a practice that many farmers do for many crops, not just for the rice crop. For many cultivations, growers usually they like to provide high amount of nitrogen. Why is that? What is the reason? Any importance in that? Why farmers would like to provide more nitrogen?
Grow fastening.
Can you repeat your answer, please?
Grow fastening.
Yes, it grows fast. Yes, it grows fast, and at the same time, the greenery appearance will be very high. The greeniness, right? The greenness will be very high because nitrogen is required for the production of actually the chlorophylls. So it will give more green appearance, right? So green, when it goes high, it will lead to the higher amount of photosynthesis. That is the hypothesis or the idea that the farmers are having. But at the same time, of course, it will lead to that level. But almost all these plants are having their maximum capacity of producing chlorophylls and chloroplasts for the photosynthesis. For photosynthesis, because there should be a kind of a maximum level. So it will not be getting very high when you apply nitrogen in very high level, right? At some point it will be not recommended level. So we will get recommendations from the Department of Agriculture if you consider about Sri Lankan context. So we get recommendations for basal and top dressings, right? Basal dressing means you will apply the specific combination of fertilizers at the time of establishment, but top dressings may be one or several top dressings may be having. So they are applied once the crop is established. So the amount of nitrogen also they are recommending in different levels. So if you exceed the amount, what happens? Of course, it will give more greenery appearance, but it will attract more pests at the same time, right? Because the pest sense that it is having more healthy nature, right? They like to have healthy plants to feed on. So high nitrogen fertilizers will give rise to more amount of these chlorophylls, chloroplasts, and then the photosynthesis will be very high. So the leaf section, especially the leaf section, will be growing very nicely. So when the leaf section is very nice, so these rice leaf folders are very much attracted towards the leaf. So that is why high doses of nitrogen fertilizers are not recommended. It does not just increase the photosynthesis, but at the same time it will attract more pests, right? So these are the conditions that will promote their incidence. So this is the ABC you can see here. A means the adult. So it is a kind of a moth again. So that is why they are belonging to this order Lepidoptera. And B shows you the larvae, the caterpillar, right? It is like a worm. And at the same time, I think you can see how they are fastening the edges, the two edges of the leaves. So it's like threads, right? White color thread-like structure. It is secreted by the body of this larvae, right? So they try to fasten these two edges and to be inside of uh, the roll-like structure, right? So C, in C graph, you will see what happens when they have attacked the leaves. So they again suck the cell sap or they feed on this mesophyll cell layer, and because of this removal of the mesophyll cell layer, the so-called damaged area will be seen in white color because this mesophyll cell layer is having the most amount of chloroplasts, right? So most amount of chloroplasts will be occupied by this mesophyll cell layer. So once they are absent, what happens? The green color portion vanish, right? So green color portion get vanished and it is seen like in what? Or silver color, maybe silvery color or white color, right? So that is how we can identify the rice leaf folders attack. So this is how it seems once the fastening edges have been removed. So is it clear? I think you all can identify that. So this is how the damage seems, right? I think if you have a crop cultivation, you can easily identify this attack. Then control methods for the rice leaf folder, field sanitation is important. So whatever the pest attack, right? Whatever the pest attack, we need to have the field sanitation very well, because these unwanted plant parts and any other residues that we do not want in our cultivation should not be in the cultivation, because sometimes it may be acting as a breeding place for these uh, pests, right? Breeding places, and sometimes they are resting places. So field sanitation, especially the plant parts that are infested with any type of a pest, right? So usually in very minor infestations, we used to remove the plant parts that are infested by the pest. So these parts should not be there in the crop cultivation. They should be kept away, right? They should be, especially should be removed from the crop cultivation. And recommended plant spacing, right? Recommended plant spacing is important. So most of the paddy cultivations, if you take a look at the paddy cultivation types, in some cases maybe you have seen, so it's a kind of a cultivation starts with seed paddy, right? Seed paddy. So it will be the planting material of paddy cultivation or the rice cultivation. So when it comes to seed paddy, how we are going to have this establishment? In some cases, some farmers do broadcasting, right? Broadcasting means you are just spreading all the seeds, the especially these germinating seeds, right? Germinating seeds to the field. So there will be no any proper spacing, and they fall on the ground and they will start growing. That is how broadcasting happens. And some cases you will maintain a kind of a nursery, or maybe in nursery trays or dapog nurseries, if not the parachute method. Likewise, there are different methods that we can maintain a nursery for the rice cultivation. So mainly if you maintain a nursery, then you can go for the transplanting. But in the case of this rice plants, we need more rice plants to have more grains, because the grain is a very little body part of the plant, and we need more grains from one plant. That is what we are expecting from a rice plant, right? We need more grains from a plant, and one plant is not enough. Actually, we need more plants in our field. So then uh, transplantation, we need much labor, and if you get the use of machines, it requires more power, right? So there are especially two ways that we can do the transplantation. We can get the use of manual power, or we can plant transplant these plants by our own hands, right? But it takes more time. But tractors or any other appliances are there. We can go using machinery, right? And in machinery, we can actually uh, maintain the plant spacing. And if you go through the manual transplantation by ourselves, the hand transplantation, so you can keep an eye to maintain the recommended plant spacing, right? So that is how usually these two kinds of these plantations are carried out: broadcasting and transplantation. So especially in broadcasting, plant spacing will be not maintained, right? So that will be a kind of a problem, that you are having more amount of plants in a specific area of land. So what happens? So usually we think that as much as we can in the per unit area of land, we can get more yield. But that is not the case, because when the plants are getting much closer than the recommended spacing, what happens? Anything that we can expect uh, from that type of a scenario? So plants are much closer to each other, so they are lesser than the recommended plant spacing. What happens? So of course you will get more number of plants per unit area of the land. But at the same time, what you can expect? Any other thing you can expect?
Plants can't get all the factors, sunlight, mm, and
Yes, the growth factors. So there will be actually a kind of a competition will be there, a very higher competition between the plants for the crop growth factors. I think you have studied about the crop growth factors, right? So there will be a very high competition between the plants, even though they are belonging to the same species. They are not different plants, but then they are same plants, same species in the plant species. But as they are different plants, they are having a very great competition between each other. And at the same time, so we can expect this competition between both underground and the aerial environment, right? So the underground portion, if you take a look at the underground portion, the root systems of the plants are very closer to each other. Maybe they are getting attached to each other sometimes. So that will be a kind of a very bad competition between the plants for the uptake of water and nutrients, right? So if you it's a kind of a competition for the crop growth factors, but at the same time that is a kind of a entry point for the pest attacks as well. So how this can be happen? When it comes to the crop growth, that will be a kind of a bad condition, the not maintaining the proper recommended plant spacing, and at the same time it will be a kind of the same problem, a kind of a problem will be created by this condition for the pest attacks as well. So the reason is that it is really easy for one pest to transport to another because it's are very close, the plants are very close to each other. So if one plant get attached to another plant, if one get attacked by a pest, it will really easy to get attacked to another very close by, right? So likewise, it will be surrounded by number of plants. So all the plants will get attacked by the pest which are surrounding by the infected one. So it is really easy for the pest to get uh, increased in population, and all the plants will show the symptoms like in hopper burn, right? So hopper burn is also kind of that one. We need to maintain the proper spacing, right? Recommended plant spacing is important not just for allowing to plants to get good crop growth factors, but at the same time to have less amount of pest attacks. So you need to have the recommended plant spacing. You should not increase the the amount of plants in the given field area. And recommended dose plus time of nitrogen fertilizer. Right? We have discussed that having more nitrogen than the recommended amount will be a kind of a reason for increasement of this population of this rice leaf folder, right? So we have discussed why is that. So they are much attracted towards the much healthy leaf section because of the nitrogen. And of course, at the same time, not just the dose, at the same time, we need to identify the time as well. Time means this should not be applied in frequent manner, right? So there should be a kind of a interval, right? Intervals should be there in application of nitrogen because once you apply nitrogen once, then the next one should have a kind of a in between these two should have an interval. If not, what happens? Uh, the higher amount of nitrogen and at the same time higher frequency of applying nitrogen will lead to more amount of healthy leaves, and then it will create the favorable condition for the rice leaf folder to attach to the leaves. And again, the regular monitoring. So as we have discussed for the others as well, regular monitoring is important so you can identify their attack. So we can identify their attack in the first sense, right? One or two maybe there in the cultivation, so we can get some action. Again, fallowing. Fallowing is another controlling method for many pests. So you should not start another cultivation after harvesting at once, right? So you need to keep a gap time and then start the cultivation after some time. So then in this gap time, this insect will not find their feeding material in the field. So because of that, they will have to die. So when the adult die, there will be no any eggs, laying of eggs. And however, we need to damage one or several growth stages of this pest to control them. So when the adult is controlled, all the other growth stages will be damaged, so they will be not there. And insecticides, if these control methods are not much effective, we can go for insecticides, right? So these are the insecticide flubendimamide. So you so this chemical is much important in controlling this one, and we have different concentrations as well. And also we need to, the specific thing is that we need to identify the specific dosages and the concentrations. Not all types are uh, effective, and when it comes to the application, we should apply them in the most minimum levels, right? You should not use higher concentrations and not recommended levels of dosages. Then we have another one, rice gall mitch, right? So this is another kind of a pest that we are having in rice cultivation, rice gall mitch. So here in this picture, you will see how we can identify them. A little bit different to what we have discussed earlier. Um, so this is a kind of an adult, right? Adult rice gall mitch. It's like a mosquito, right? I think you all have seen mosquitoes. So this is a kind of a mosquito-like uh, pest, right? We can identify their morphological context. So then we can identify them usually in red, orange color. So they are landing on the plant. So like this, and then adult is a mosquito like nocturnal, right? Nocturnal means they are much activated in night time, right? So female and the male are in different colors, right? Females are usually seen in red color, and males are in yellow color. Right? That is a difference. And they are actually said as seasonal pests. So they are not actually attracted in every time to a crop. They are seasonal. Right? At some points only they will be there in the cultivation, and they are also attracted to light, right? So that those are the things that have been found, so we can easily trap them by the use of light traps. So if you take a look at the time that they usually do the damage to the crop cultivation, so they are known as a kind of a crop, the pest category that attack the crops, attack only to tillering stage. So do you know about tillering? Tillering, what is tillering? Especially we talked about tillering in paddy. What is tillering? Have you heard about tillering?
ripening stage එකද?
Did you say about ripening? Ripening stage? No, no. It's not linked to the ripening. Ripening means so actually we do not expect any ripening stage. Actually we do not call as ripening, but
අවස්ථාවද?
yes. Can you repeat your answer? I didn't hear you.
කිරිවදින අවස්ථාවද?
නෑ කිරි වදින අවස්ථාවක් නෙමෙයි. ටිලරින් අපි කියනවා පඳුරු ගහනවා කියන්නේ පඳුරු ගසන වෙලාවක් තියෙනවා කියන්නේ මේ අපේ මේ රයිස් ප්ලාන්ට් එක මම කිව්වේ අර ග්‍රාස් ෆැමිලි එකට ග්‍රාස් එකක් විදිහට තමයි අපි ගන්නෙ. ඒතකොට ග්‍රාස් එකක් පඳුරක් විදිහට එක ගහක් නෙමෙයි තියෙන්නේ. හොඳට බැලුවොත් අපිට පේනවා රයිස් ප්ලාන්ට් එකේ තියෙනවා මේ පඳුරක් විදිහට එයා හැදෙන්නේ. හරි අනේ පඳුරු ගහන එකට තමයි අපි කියන්නේ ටිලරින් කියලා. right? So as they are actually like this pest is like a mosquito. These are belongs to the family. So the order Diptera, right? මම හිතන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ අහලා ඇති Diptera කියන family එක sorry order එක. So they are mainly the mosquitoes. Mainly the mosquitoes will come under Diptera order Diptera. So this one. So this specific pest category will attack only to tillering stage as we have discussed. Right? Tillering means there are different tillering stages actually. There's not only once. Right? There are different tillering stages in rice cultivation. So they will attack to this tillering stage. So severity depends crop growth and the stage of attack. Right? How much severity is there? It depends on how severe their damage is and the stage of attack, right? So tillering takes in different times, right? It is not happens overnight, and there are different stages in tillering, right? So each of these tillering stages will be having their susceptible moments for getting attacked by the rice gall niche, right? So larvae reach the apical lateral bud. So here these dipterans are having a complete life cycle again, right? So in complete life cycle, we have eggs, larvae, the pupae and the adult. So then what happens? This larvae is doing the actually the harm. Larvae, it's a kind of a worm-like structure, a caterpillar-like structure. So they reach the apical lateral buds. So bud portion is in the very middle of the plant. So if there are many tillers, so each one of these tillers are also having the bud in the middle, right? So this bud will be the most immature part, and then the area is much activated and produce new leaves, and sometimes it gives rise to the panicles. Right? That is a kind of a region called bud. Right? So this apical, the most top portion, the apex of the plant is known as the apical bud. Right? The main mother plant will be there in the middle, and surrounding that mother plant, we will be having more tillers. Right? So these tillers and the mother plant, almost all these are actually producing panicles. That is why we get more panicles from a rice plant. So there will be not only one panicle, there will be number of panicles. So these panicles will be produced by each of these tillers. Right? So these larvae, what they do is that they reach the most upper portion of the bud and they lacerate tissues until pupation. What happens next is that they lacerate tissues. They eat them, right? අපි lacerate කියලා කියනෝනේ ඉරලා දානවා කියලා කියන්නේ ඉරනවා වගේ එකක් කරන්නේ. So they eat, they tear these tissues and eat everything until it gets pupation. So in pupation, the pupal stage is a kind of a immobile stage, right? Pupal stage, right? This stage is immobile. They cannot move in that stage, but once they get come to that pupal stage, the harm that they are doing will be temporarily stopped. So until they reach the pupation, they will lacerate the tissues, because I have mentioned that the pupal stage is immobile. So in immobile stage, they do not have the capacity to move here and there to eat, right? So what they do is that they eat as much as they can in their larval stage and gather energy. And then this energy will be preserved in their pupal stage until it comes to the adult stage. That is what happens in insect life cycles, right? So this in the pupation, it is immobile, but it is having the required amount of energy within them, because they have eaten much in their larval stage, right? So what happens, they have come to the pupation, it lead to galls. Gall means a kind of a ball-like structure. We call them silver or onion shoots. We'll see how it forms. Onion shoot formation, right? Onion shoots, if not silver shoots, right? It's a gall, a kind of a blockage that is maintained by this pupation. So it blocks something and form silver or onion shoots. The shoot portion will be white or gray or silver in color, and it seems like an onion shoot, onion leaf, right? And galls terminate tiller development, affect rice yield. What happens there is that this gall, the specific gall-like structure they produce, will blocking the tiller development, right? Blocking, and at the same time, in heavy infestation, it will terminate or stop the tiller development. So tillers are important for rice yield, and this will directly harm on the rice yield because it stops the tiller development. Again, favorable conditions have been found for the damage. Wet, humid weather. So this wet, humid weather is not much good for this one. Rice gall mitch, if you have this condition, you can expect their infestations. And dry and intermediate zones in Maha season and wet zone in Yala season. Right? So in Maha season, now we are experiencing the Maha season and we get more amount of rain, especially than we expected because of many climatic changes. However, the dry and intermediate zones will get more rains from Maha season, right? So that will create more wet conditions, wet weather for the dry and intermediate zones. And at the same time, the conditions will be same for wet zone in Yala season. Because in the Yala season, wet zone will get more rains, right? Comparably, the Yala season is getting low rains with Maha when compared to Maha. But these zones, so Sri Lanka is divided into three climatic zones, dry, intermediate, and wet zones. And comparably, these zones are getting the rains in Yala and Maha in these amounts. So that is why the wet conditions in these zones are different in different seasons. So in these seasons, so we need to identify where the grower or the farmer is located in, and then we need to identify whether they are experiencing any wet, humid weathers. So that condition is not good for successful cultivation. So maybe they are getting the infestation of rice gall niche. We can get some resistant varieties to get away from this condition. So PTB 18 and PTB 21. So these are Indian varieties. So these have been showing much resistivity, and we have Batalagoda varieties as well. So these are uh, considered as resistant varieties. So if we can go to these type of resistant varieties, so we can get rid of rice gall niche attack very easily. And natural enemies. So it is called biological control. We can get the use of natural enemies. So there are enemies for rice gall niche. So Hymenoptera parasite. So Hymenoptera is a kind of another order. So these Hymenopterans, the insects belong to the order Hymenoptera. They act as a kind of a parasite. So what are parasite? Have you heard about parasites?
පරපෝෂිතයෝ.
පරපෝෂිතයෝ කියලා අපි කියනවා. So they will especially feed on their eggs, right? So these hymenopterans, so they feed on their eggs. So when the eggs are eaten by these hymenopterans, what happens? One of the growth stages are damaged. So then there will be no any larval stage or pupal stage. Again, no adults, right? And Coleoptera. Coleoptera, who belongs to the order Coleoptera. So this is another very common, yes, beetles, very good, right? Beetles. So they are coming under the order Coleoptera, right? So these beetles, Coleopterans, so they are also acting as predatory beetles. Right? අපි කියනවා කුරුමිනියෝ කියලා. කුරුමිනියෝ ගොඩක් අයිති වෙන්නේ මේ Coleoptera කියන ගෝත්‍රයට. එතකොට Coleopteran predatory beetles ලා ඉන්නවා, right? So these parasites and predatory beetles, so they have been found as enemies of rice gall niche. So we can go for these one to control. So these are the onion shoot or the silver shoots I have described. So if you take a look at the tillers, so here you will see tillers, right? Tiller, how we can see it's a kind of a ඒ කියන්නේ වී කරලක් හදනවා. ඒ නිසා තමයි අපිට වී කරල් අපිට ගොඩක් අවශ්‍යයි. මොකද එකකින් එන ප්‍රමාණය බීජ ප්‍රමාණය හරි අඩුයි. ඒ නිසා එක පඳුරකින් එක ගහකින් අපි එක මදර් ප්ලාන්ට් එකක් හදනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් අපි එක මදර් ප්ලාන්ට් එකක මව් ශාකයකින් වැඩි අස්වැන්නක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. මේ අස්වැන්න ගන්න නම් මේ ගහ පඳුරු ගහන්න ඕනේ. පඳුරු ඇති වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒතර වටේට තියෙන මදර් ප්ලාන්ට් එක අපි හිටවු එක වටේට තියෙන අනිත් ප්ලාන්ට්ස් වලට අපි කියනවා අනිත් කොටස් වලට ටිලර්ස් කියලා කියනවා. So each of these tillers will produce a kind of a panicle. So if you take a look at a kind of this one a type of a grass, right? එක ශාකයක් ගත්තාම පේනවාදී සුදු පාට මේ හැකිලිලා ගියපු පොඩි සුදු පාටට සිල්වර් කලර් වගේ වෙන්න පුළුවන්, ග්‍රේ කලර් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඇඹරිලා වගේ තියෙන කොළයක්. හරි මැද කොටසක් තියෙනවා. මේකට අපි කියනවා සිල්වර් නැත්නම් අනියන් ෂූට් කියලා. So shoot portion maybe including this stem part, it is showing in white color, white or less green color, light green color, gray, silver color parts are there here and there in the grass. So there we can identify the presence of rice gall midge can be there. And if you take a look at the right top picture, so these pictures have been taken from the most down part, the most down part of these tillers, right? So they make a goal. So they make a goal that will block the transportation of water and nutrients, and also this translocation of phloem transportation. So because of this goal, it's a round color ball-like structure. So that will damage and they will block the transportation of these water, nutrients, and phloem translocation. So because of that, the proper development, proper color development, and the functioning will be blocked in each tiller. Because of that, they will produce this white color uh, portions, white or gray color portions here and there in the grass. So that will be a good sign that we can identify their attack. So control methods, we can go for the resistant varieties. That is the most important one. And light traps, again, as we have discussed earlier, this one also getting attracted towards the light. And because of that, we can maintain a kind of light traps in night. And of nitrogen is also important. How you apply it, right? Split nitrogen application. It means, uh, let's say you need to apply 100 grams of nitrogen and you are going to add it once. So that is not a good application, right? You can have it split into several splits, maybe 20 into 5 times, right? Likewise, 25 into 4 times. Likewise, we can split the dosage into different applications. Split nitrogen application, not once. You are going to divide into several sections. And you are, in one application, you are applying very little amount, not the whole amount at once. So this will also lead to uh, this not having more nitrogen for the cultivation. So that will also act as a good application technique. But when it comes to the application of granular insecticides, their effective nature is very less because that is acting as a kind of a granule. Because of the nature of this granule, it is not a liquid. So because of that, their spreading nature is very less, right? So it is difficult to obtain good control with granules, right? So we have another one, the last one, paddy bug, right? Paddy bug. So that is also one such important pest in uh, rice cultivations. So it's a bug, right? Paddy bug. So bugs. I hope you all have heard about bugs, right? So this is how it seems, right? The adult will be there on the top two photographs, and the downmost picture will show you the laid eggs, right? Eggs that they have laid. So these paddy bugs, so this is how it seems in a cultivation, how the attack seems. So their damage is a little bit different that we have discussed for the other ones. Uh, in this type of a life cycle, both nymphs and adults, only the size and the function of their body will be different, but they look same, right? Nymphs, especially, they are in a great need of energy because of that, there will be a higher damage from nymphs, right? So these nymphs and the both the adults. So we have the damage from these two types, these two damaging ages, the crop, the growth stages, and this is also belong to the order Hemiptera, the mosquito order, right? So what they do is that they suck the developing grains, causing empty, partially filled grains. So they are damaging especially the grain sections. So that will be considered as a kind of a very high damage because until now we can um, get more precautions to get our crop cultivation safe from other type of pests, but the economically important part of the crop, the rice crop, is the grains. We expect grains from the rice plant, but the most severe case here is that they actually directly impact on the grains. So that is why they are heavily damaging our yield, right? What they do is that they sucks the developing grains. So developing grains අර මම හිතනවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ කිව්වේ කිරිවදින අවධිය කියලා. හරි? So this development of grains is very important, right? We need to give all the necessary facilities for the crop to provide us with the optimum amount of harvest, right? So the harvest is coming from grains, right? So especially the developing grains. අර කිව්ව කිරිවදින අවධිය කියලා කිව්ව එකේදී තමයි මෙයාලා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට හානි කරන්නේ. So the reason is that in the developing grains, right? In the developing stage, uh, the grains are not much filled. They are not much hard, right? Inside of the seed section will be very moist. හරි කිරිවදින අවදීදී අපි මෙහෙම අතින් අල්ලලා බැලුවොත් මේ වී කරලක් එහෙම කිරි වගේ එළියට එනවා. හරි ඒ කියන්නේ මේ හරි ලික්විඩ් ෆෝම් එකක තියෙන්නේ. හරි එතකොට ග්‍රේන් එක හැදුනට පස්සේ ඒකට ඇටැච් කරන එක ලේසි නෑ. මොකද අපි ඇට තියෙනේම හයියයි. බීජ හරි හයියයි. ඒකට ඇටැක් කරන්න අමාරුයි. So in the developing grain stage, it is really easy for them to suck the sap. So that is why the developing grain stage is the targeted stage, the crop stage for this bug, paddy bug. So if they do much harm, what happens? These grains become empty because the filling material, the filling nature of this, all the specific photosynthesis, the filling material will be totally absorbed. It will be totally sucked by the paddy bug. So there will be nothing to make it filled, and because of that, they will become empty. And sometimes they become partially filled. They are not fully filled grains. Sometimes they are empty or partially filled. So that is the case. And because of their attack, they are not seen in the green color in the first stages, and then it will not turn into the golden color that we are expecting from the finely filled grains. It will not come to that color. So here you will see some brownish gray white color parts or grains in the panicle. So these are the parts that are affected by the paddy bug, right? So they are abnormally seen from the outer appearance, and their infestation, their heavy infestation can reduce 3 to 5% rice yield in the country, right? So there's greater probability of lowering the yield by this paddy bug because they are directly attacking the rice grain. And adults and mature nymphs, right? So these are the damaging stages of the pest, and the other main important thing is that maybe we have talked about this fallowing, But we have another concern. So it is as a principle. As a principle for any crop cultivation, we usually recommend not to have weedy conditions surrounding the crop cultivation. Why is that? Right? So weeds, especially the weeds, should not be there actually in the field, but at the same time surrounding the field, because these ones, especially this paddy bug, can survive in weed plants because they are acting as hosts, right? They may be acting as they are actually they are much like to have the feeding material from rice, but they can have the other weeds as their host places for especially these resting places, breeding places, right? In the absence of this rice plant, they can even feed upon on these weed plants, right? We call them alternate weed hosts, right? So we should not let the surrounding area of the crop cultivation and also the specific crop cultivation evaded by uh, weeds. So natural enemies, we have natural enemies as well. As we have discussed, predators and egg parasitoids, right? Egg parasitoids. Uh, Eggs. So egg parasitoids especially means that the parasites, the parasitic nature will be on eggs, right? So Grion nixoni is a kind of egg parasitoid, very common and very popular. But the thing is, they are much costly. We need to pay much to get their presence in our field, and because of this one, this kind of a drawback, mainly many of the growers do not get the advantage of natural enemies. But we can, as they are open environments, we can let them in our the field conditions naturally without introduction artificially. And other control methods, field sanitation is important. You should not let anything that is not required in your cultivation be in your cultivation. And insecticides. So we have different chemicals in different percentages. We can use them in different recommendations. According to recommendations only, we can go for the insecticides if there is a higher infestation only, right? So we have talked about this one, and that will make the end. So I think we have discussed few major pests. So that will give you some idea on how we should control them. So I will summarize it up. So we need to especially identify uh, the so-called pest actually by good monitoring practices. Better you need to, if you can identify the so-called specific pest type, who is it, right? So you need some morphological idea of identifying this pest in the first sense. And after that, you need to have some idea on what type of a life cycle it has, right? Whether it is a complete life cycle or an incomplete life cycle. Then, of course, afterwards, we can identify in which growth stages of this pest we can attack. We can get the uh, attack for our crop cultivation, and then we need to decide how to destroy the specific growth stage and what are the control methods. So those are the things we discussed in this session. So I'm happy if you have any questions regarding this session. If you need any clarification. So was it clear? If you need any clarification. Right.
Recording stopped.
So I will stop at this point. So the first session for today will be over, and another set of important pests that you will encounter if you have a cultivation in a different crop category, right? The crop category will be different, but we are again talking about the same pests. So this crop category will be on pests of fruits and vegetables.
Recording in progress.
So the pests of fruits and vegetables. So I guess you all know, and when it comes to our consumption for the food, fruits and vegetables. So these are a kind of another important crop category. Actually, two categories, right? Fruits and also the vegetables, which are important as plant-based materials in our diet, right? So of course, as humans, we will depend on many types of materials for our food, including plant-based materials and animal-based materials. And maybe some people are there, they are totally depending on the plant-based materials, maybe vegetarians, vegans, and most of the population will depend on the both, right? So these fruits and vegetables, both are crop-based or the plant-based materials, and especially important in our day-to-day diet. Of course, when it comes to the importance, we can get many importances actually from plant-based materials than that we can expect from animal-based food, right? So many type of chemicals. Maybe you have heard about antioxidants, right? Antioxidants, polyphenols, carotenoids, likewise, many types of chemical compounds are there in fruits and vegetables that we cannot expect from any animal-based material. So as the animal-based materials, there may be some set of chemicals that we can expect from those that we cannot expect from plant-based materials. So however, according to the findings, recommendations, the best way is to incorporate both in our diet, the plant-based materials and the animal-based materials, because they have different types of capacities, and both leads to our proper functioning of our bodies as humans. So as we are much targeted towards these crop cultivations, here today we will be talking about only the crop types, and this is mainly because of food consumption. So the rice important as a staple food for ourselves, and when it comes to the fruits and vegetables, so there's a great production in our country as a local production, and at the same time, I think you all will agree with me that many fruits and vegetables are even imported to our country. So that is also not much self-sufficient at the moment. And these are actually two different crop categories, fruit cultivation and the vegetable cultivation. These two, actually, some are imported, and at the same time, our production are exported to other countries as well. So when it comes to production and importation, both are responsible for our consumption, because these are much essential components in our diet, right? Maybe you have heard about food pyramid, right? In food pyramid, the lowest, the bottom part will be occupied by these fruits and vegetables, and uh, as food categories, these are important. So crop cultivations are maintained for fruits and vegetables, and again, these pests and diseases are eventually, or they are inevitably, so they are taking place in our fruits and vegetable cultivations. So that is why we need to identify the specific types of pests that will cause some damage, because we do not expect any damage to our crop cultivation. But however, when it comes to especially the pest types, they do some harm. Maybe it is not much economical if you do monitor well and do some effective controlling mechanisms. but eventually it will do some damage. So to minimize that damage, we need to identify who are they and how they attack to our crop. So then in fruit crops, so these two will be discussed in separately. So major pests of fruit crops, we call fruit crops. So we have these food crops as main ones in our country: banana, mango, citrus type ones, and pineapple and papaya. So I will talk about these ones, and some are actually imported, so those are not be discussed. And these ones, so here I have given the most prominent or major pest types for each type of fruit crops. So we'll see how they do the harm and who are they. And first one, so this is important and prominent in banana cultivations, right? Banana pseudostem weevil, right? Odoiporus longicolis. So this is very common. This is the scientific name. And here you will see the right side picture, the specific adult. So maybe you have heard about pest boxes, right? Pest boxes, we usually make some by preserving their specimens, right? To give an idea on what type of a pest is this. So we usually make these pest boxes, right? So the died insect is there pinned in a box, right? So this is how it seems morphologically. So it's a weevil, belongs to this order Coleoptera, right? Um, so banana pseudostem, mainly it will attack the banana plants, and pseudostem, right? Banana pseudostem weevil. So the name itself gives the specific type and to which type of crops it damage, and the nature of the plant part. The pseudostem means what? What is the meaning of pseudostem? So when you look at the banana plant, we all have seen banana plants. So what we can see from the green color portion is a pseudostem. It is not the actual, the true stem of the plant, right? The actual true stem is a rhizome. So it is under the underground area, under the soil layer. So that is the true stem actually, but what we see as green color is there as the pseudostem. We call pseudo means false, right? Pseudo means false. It is a false stem, right? False stem. The meaning is false stem. It looks like a stem, but it is not, right? So that is for the production of this photosynthesis or the photosynthesis. It is not actually the stem part of the banana plant. It is called a pseudostem. So these ones, weevils, these banana pseudostem weevils will attack this pseudostem part. So larvae, so this is having 4 growth stages, right? The eggs will be there and the larvae will come out from the eggs, and then the pupal stage and the adult stage. So the main problem is coming from the larvae, right? Larvae feed on internal tissues of pseudostem and the rhizome part as well, which are very uh, closer to the aerial parts, right? Rhizome is beneath the soil layer, but the most closer area to the pseudostem will be again can be attacked by this banana pseudostem weevil. Other than that, it does not go much deep, right? So, however, the aerial part of the banana plant will be attacked by the banana pseudostem weevil. So, what happens? So, they feed on the internal tissues, right? Internal tissues of the banana plant. Maybe you have seen that inside of the banana plant. So, there is a high amount of tissues. So these are the target areas for the larvae. So they need energy. So because of that, they eat as much as they can. So they damage the internal tissues and they eat them. So because of that, the tissues, the functioning of the tissues are blocked, damaged, And the whole plant, in a heavy infestation, what happens? The whole growth will be retarded. And the stem portion, the stem portion that we see in the plant will be weakened, and sometimes it may collapse. It means lodging of the full plant. Maybe you have seen that in banana cultivations, they become fully collapsed, right? Maybe it is happening in a very short instance, right? It does not take much time. At once, it will collapse. So that is the idea that this has been, maybe we can suspect that this has been infested by banana pseudostem weevil. And the growing point, so each and every this banana plant is having a growing point in the middle, right? So if they pass through that growing point, it may lead to the death of the full plant. So that is the most serious damage it can do, right? So this is how it do the damage. And this is another one. So like this one, this is this banana pseudostem weevil. This is another one, banana rhizome weevil, right? So name implies the damage, to which part it do the damage. Banana rhizome weevil. So it will attack the rhizome. Again, it's a coleopteran, the same scenario. Again, the larvae is doing the much damage. Larvae feed on pseudostem and the rhizome, especially below ground level. So their target area is the rhizome, right? And also the pseudostem parts, which is close by to the rhizome, will be targeted for the banana rhizome weevil. So they feed on the pseudostem and the rhizome area of the underground portion, the larvae. At the same time, we call them grubs. In weevils, the larval stage is also named as grubs. If you see that name in literature, that is also mentioning the larval stage. So they are very large in body size, and they are much similar to worms, right? And tissue at edge of tunnels turn brown. So if you take a look at the leftmost picture, it is more or less similar to the banana pseudostem weevil, but there's difference actually. They have differences to identify. And in the middle, you will see how highly infested rhizome part is seen. Right? So then tissues at the edge of the tunnel. So they make tunnels in the inside of the rhizomes, and then they come out of the tunnel, and the areas where they have come out from the tunnels, they become brown. So this is how it seems in the rhizome part. So if you uh, dig them out, dig the rhizome part out, you will see this type of a nature in the rhizome. So this will give the proof that this plant has been infested by banana rhizome weevil. And again, if they do much harm, it may lead to the death of the plant. So the control of both these ones, banana pseudostem weevil and the banana rhizome weevil, usage of pest-free planting material. So when you select planting materials, so what type of planting materials are taken for banana cultivations? The planting material that we need to have to start a cultivation?
Rhizome.
Yes, rhizome can be taken. Other than that, mainly we use another type of planting material. Maybe you have seen some are transporting them from one farmer to another, or in sometimes the public transport system also some are taken.
Tissue cultured plant.
Yes, tissue cultured plants are also there. For the banana cultivations, we can use tissue culture, but it is costly, but it takes more cost, right? Usually we will get the use of suckers, right? Sucker, maybe you have heard about suckers. Other than the mother plant, it will again, as we discussed in the rice cultivation, it will produce more plants. Have you seen that? In one mother plant, there may be other small plants are coming surrounding from the mother plant in banana. They are called suckers, right? Suckers. So mainly there are three types of suckers, and we recommend to have uh, be the most demanded planting material for banana. Other than that, we can go for this tissue culture and also for the rhizome as well. But for the rhizome, we need to have some more time until it gives a plant. But if you start from a sucker, the small baby plant is there actually. The very small plant is there and it will grow. The thing is that it will take lesser time compared to a rhizome to have a well-grown plant. That is why the suckers are mostly accepted. And here, when you select these suckers or rhizomes, right, especially in tissue culture plants, we don't expect any disease. So they are disease-free actually. But when it comes to the other parts, dissemination of other parts for the establishment, for the crop cultivations, we need to get them pest-free, right? You should not select any sucker or a rhizome from a infected or infested plant, right? The plant part that you are selecting should be pest free. So if your planting material is infested by pest, it will not they are laying eggs and the grubs will come out. Usually for these two, the grubs form is very common and they are uh, larval stage actually. So this larval stage, right? These eggs are coming out and they feed on the materials other than the this banana plant in other residues in the plantation or the cultivation. Right? So the sanitation should be very much important. You should not allow any, especially the pest infested plant parts in the cultivation, and also any other type of unwanted materials in the field, because they can sometimes they lay eggs on these debris or residues. So you should not let any unwanted material in the cultivation. Then traps, right? So we can get the use of traps. Usually these traps are made with or without pesticides, right? So usually these traps are used with pesticides. So what we do as traps is that we usually when it comes to a harvested banana plant, we usually remove the plant from the cultivation, right? So we can have some middle parts of the plant, of the banana plant after it has been harvested, and then we can keep it here and there. So, of course, we recommend that you should maintain the sanitation, but this is a kind of a trap, right? So, harvested plant parts can be spread here and there in the cultivation, and what happens? These weevils, both types, right? Especially the banana pseudostem, we will think that this is a good source to feed. So because of that, the larvae will enter into these plant parts that are spreaded here and there, and that will make a good entry point because it is already open. So they will feed on that material. So then we can easily trap them And so mainly what happens is that these portions, these plant parts are treated with pesticides. So once they are feeding on that plant part, at the same time they are uh, toxicated by this pesticide. So what happens? At the same time they are feeding, they will get died, right? So that is how the traps are made to catch, especially the banana pseudostem weevil. And at the same time, we can do the same thing for the rhizomes as well to trap banana rhizome weevil, right? That is how the traps are utilized to catch these two types. And insecticides, we can go for the insecticides, the same as the pesticides. So these are well recommended, and what we need to do that is use the recommended amount only. Then another specific one for this fruit fly, for the fruit crops, fruit fly. So maybe you have heard about fruit fly, right? Fruit fly is a very common one in fruit cultivations. Bactrocera dorsalis, so this is very common, and for many research activities, these have been targeted. And so they are, as the name implies, they are attracted towards the fruits, and at the same time, they attack to fruits, right? Fruit fly. A fruit fly is much attracted towards any sort of a fruit. Maybe it's a vegetable, but it's when it's ripening, it really attracts fruit flies. So, so this is the adult, right? So it's a dipteran. So the mature adult is here, and however, we'll see how they are attacking the fruits. So they are again, as we have talked about these paddy bugs, right? So they are actually, these fruit flies are also attacking the specific economical part of the plant. So economical part, maybe the most important plant part for ourselves will be known as the economical important plant part, right? So that will be very serious. So if they are doing some damage to the economically important plant part directly, it will be a serious problem. So this is also one such. So result will be, what will be the end result? Immature fruit fall, right? The fruit also will, fruit already getting fallen if you do not harvest it, but this fruit is going to be fall down in the immature stage. So that is something abnormal. I think you all can identify that immature fruit fall is something abnormal. So that can be expected by the higher infestation of fruit fly. And deformed fruit, right? Deformed fruits, it means the form, the specific shape it should carry is not there. Deformation. A deformed fruit. ඊට පස්සේ පළතුර පියර්ස් කරනවා, මේ හීල් කරනවා. හරි හීල් කරලා ඇතුළට එයාගේ බිත්තර එහෙම දාන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට මෙයාගේ මේ තැන් තැන් වල පොඩි පොඩි තිත් වගේ තියෙන්න පුළුවන් පළතුරේ. Right? So that is their damage will be the first damage they do, but at the same time, because of the damaging of that plant part, it will be acting as an entry point to microorganisms as well, right? We call that type of if after the damage that it causes, if the plant part is having another infection by a microorganism, it is known as a secondary infection because that infection is due to the damage done by this fruit fly. Right? It is not a direct infection, it is an indirect infection because of this fruit fly's damage. Right? If there has no any damage by the fruit fly, there will be no any infection. Right? Because the reason why, because the infection has been come out, because of this fruit fly, it will become a secondary infection, right? So the result will be have tasting some sort of fruits like guava. It's really common that guava is having this fruit flies larvae. අපි කියනවානේ පේර හැම කෑවම පස්සේ පේරවල ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මේක දකින්න හම්බ වෙනවා. ඇතුලේ පණුව හිටියා කියලා කියනවා. Right? So what they do is that they lay eggs inside the layers of this outer cover, and then the larvae will come out. Larvae will fully feed on the fruit portion inside the fruit flesh, and then it will come to the pupal stage, right? So then that is how when we are consuming it, we will identify that this larvae is present inside, right? So to minimize this, we need to what? Cover the fruits, right? So covering means that we will minimize the availability, we minimize the opportunities for the fruit fly to land on the skin of the fruit, right? If they land on the skin only, they can lay the eggs. So we will minimize the opportunity of them to land on the skin. So then they cannot lay eggs. Fruit covering. So fruit covering is important. Maybe you have seen the fruit covering. So that is to especially protect the fruit from the pests. And pheromone traps. So maybe you have heard about pheromone traps. So different genders, we will get the use of the sexuality between the females and males of these fruit flies, and to attract each one to another, they usually secrete a kind of a chemical. We call them pheromones. So only the opposite gender of their species will experience the sense of the pheromone. So we will get that get that as an advantage to trap them, right? So methyl eugenol, so it is the chemical that we can expect in the pheromone of this one, fruit fly. So we will add that methyl eugenol into a kind of a cup-like structure, and we will allow them to enter into the specific structure, and we will not allow them to go away. That is a kind of a trap, right? Only entering is there, no exit. So it's a pheromone trap, right? Pheromone traps can be used to actually trap the adults, right? Adult types will be adult flies. So these are flies. So these flies can be trapped inside pheromone traps. And turn soil around the plant. So that is one such important thing. So how this can be important? Why you need to turn the soil around the plant? So this is important to surrounding the plant only. How this can be happen? What is the reason? So you know that if you do not harvest the fruit, it will directly fall down in the ground, right? So what happens if they are ripened in the tree, right? If they are ripening in the tree and you are not covering the fruit as well, and maybe it is much far away from your level, the height, so then you are not being able to cover the fruit, and however it is getting attacked by the fruit fly, and what happens? It will eventually fall down into the ground, right? So the ground also it is getting infested by this larvae, right? Maybe larvae will be feeding on the material, but they are in the ground, right? So there may be without our notice, there may be many types of this larvae in the around the plant in the soil ground. So to if they are there, so there's a great amount of capacity to have these larvae developed into the pupae and then the adults. right? So there may be many number of larvae in the ground. So we need to, however, damage one type of crop growth in the, pest growth in the pest life cycle. So we can easily damage them by turning the soil. So if you turn soil, what happens, right? They will come out of the soil and maybe a target by the other predators. And of course, if it is exposed to sunlight, they may get died, right? So then we have to control that stage. And it is said that it is important to turn the soil around the plant. So there will be no any larvae in the ground with fallen fruits. And sanitation, so they can be in the unwanted material you have in your ground, the field. So sanitation is important. You should not let anything inside the anything, especially residues, debris, which are affected by this fruit fly damage. And insecticides, we can spray insecticides. So then we can get rid of this one if anything doesn't work well, right? So this is about fruit fly. And mango cultivations. So we have number of mango cultivations here. It's a kind of a very demanded fruit, both for the local market and for the exportation as well. And we have a kind of a disastrous condition from one pest. It's mango leaf hopper, right? Mango leaf hopper. So mango leaf will be targeted by this. It's a kind of a hopper, a kind of a lepidopteran, a moth-like structure. Here you will see the adult, right? So mango leaves, mango plants are much far away from our height, and it's really difficult for us to control this, right? So what they do is that they suck the cell sap from the leaves, maybe from the inflorescences and young leaves. So these are the most delicate plant parts will be targeted by the pests, because the cell walls and other cutaneous cell layers, the leaf layers are much damaging in mature leaves for the attack of pests. Because of that, these inflorescences, right, they are very delicate, very mild in nature. These inflorescences and young leaves have much tender nature, right, much immature nature. So it is really easy for them to attack. And by their this sucking the cell sap, the fruit set will go down, right? So there will be no any photosynthesis for the production of fruits then. Because of that, the fruit set, the amount of fruits that can be harvested from the plant will go down. And at the same time, they secrete, we call them honeydew conditions. So they secrete something that is sugary, right? Which is sugary. So then we call, this is called honeydew. So honeydew is not much problematic, but it leads to a secondary infection, because the secretion is sugary and it is really sweet in nature. Microorganisms will land on the specific area and feed on that, right? So because of that, maybe you have seen the sooty mold condition, black color, powdery nature in mango leaves, right? So if you are maintaining something underneath of the plant, they are also getting infected by that condition, right? Black color powdery something on the top of the uh, leaves of mango, right? So that is called sooty mold. So sooty mold is a result of this honeydew, right? And to control that, we need to apply insecticides, and it is very difficult to catch those because they are adults, right? Then citrus, right? Citrus, maybe you have heard about the citrus family. So there are a number of fruits in our local market, and different set belong to the citrus family in other countries. Citrus leaf miner. So citrus plant is getting much damaged by this leaf miner. Right here, you will see how it is seen. It is also a kind of a moth, the adult right side picture, but the damage is caused by the larvae. Right? It is also having the Lepidopteran order, and then they will lay eggs, and larvae will come out of the eggs. So this larvae is like a worm, and they eat the so-called mesophyll cell layer in the middle of this leaf structure. So because of that, we can identify their uh, damage by looking at the leaves. Here in the leftmost picture, you will see how it seems. So the roads, like tunnels, like structures that they have gone inside the leaf is become visible, right? So they are less chlorophyll, they are having less chlorophyll, and because of that, those tunnels are seen. So the control will be by a predatory wasp, right? Wasp කියන අපි දෙබරෙක් වගේ කෙනෙකුට කියන wasp කියලා. So there are different types of wasps. So they feed on this larvae, and because of that, the population can be minimized. And chemical control, Fenthoate is a good example. So we can apply this one to the leaves. So then it will be controlled. So if you find any plant part affected by the leaf miner, so this is not common for only for citrus family. Many other crops are getting leaf miner attack. Right? In the first stages, we can remove the plant part from the mother plant. So that is a good way of controlling. But if there are many or higher incidents, we need to go for the chemical control. Again, the same citrus family is getting attacked by the butterfly. Maybe you don't think that butterflies are harmful, but here this one is harmful. Right? This one maybe you have seen, right? Mostly butterflies are not harmful, but here in this case, these are harmful pests, right? Citrus butterfly, right? This is how you can identify it. And the damaging part will be there in the larvae. Right? This is also a Lepidopteran, and the larval stage will do the harm. So larvae feed on leaves. So here maybe you have seen in citrus family crops a very large bodied caterpillars are there, right? So these caterpillars, as I have mentioned earlier, their main objective is to eat much as they can and gather more energy. So this energy is utilized in their pupal stage, because pupal stage is immobile, they cannot move, right? So these larvae will eat whatever they find in their way, right? So in the right picture, you will see the butterfly larvae. So this larvae is eating the leaf lamina, right? So usually in the nature, it is having natural predators from birds. So birds eat these large bodied caterpillars. So that is a natural control by the mother nature, right? And if you see very less amount of these attacks, you can collect the plant parts and destroy, right? Collect the leaves with them from few plants, and then you can destroy them. That is how it is controlled. As because their body is very large, it is really easy for us to identify. Then another type of fruit crop, pineapple mealybug. So we are having pineapple cultivations in large scale, in many parts. Mealybug, maybe you have heard about mealybug. White color, a cotton mice-like structure. They are highly populated in very less amount of time, right? They are known as sap feeders on the fruit. So they suck the cell sap by their mother uh, mouth parts, right? So they have different mouth parts that are intended to suck the sap, right? We call them sap feeders. They are feeding on the sap. So the flesh part of the fruit or the sap will be fed by these mealybugs, right? So there are a number of mealybugs. So here they are especially known as pineapple mealybugs. So they usually like to have this sap from pineapple fruits. And at the same time, as we have discussed earlier, that is one damage, and another damage is coming from the working as a vector, right? Working as a vector of pineapple wilt virus. So pineapple wilt virus is the mainly virus attack that we have identified in pineapple. So these pineapple mealybugs can act as vectors of this viral disease. So to control that, so here in this picture you will see how their higher infestation is seen, right? They are highly populated in a very short time, and mainly from the base. They usually like to have their resting places or the breeding places in shady conditions, and because of that, the most base area of this pineapple will be occupied by mealybug, right? And we can use the use of pressurized water, right? A very high beam of pressurized water can remove them away from the fruit. And at the same time, insecticides. We have insecticides to apply, so then they will vanish. So the same mealybug for the papaya cultivation. Papaya is another major fruit crop in Sri Lanka. Papaya mealybug. So the immature and adult stages, right? They are having kind of an incomplete life cycle. So both immature and the adult stages are look same, but the sizes are different, right? So these adult stages are mostly doing the damage in mealybugs. Again, it sucks the sap from the plant, especially the fruits. If they are attacking the leaves, right, the leaves become crinkled. Crinkled means a wavy-like structure. They are becoming abnormal in the nature. They are not finely projected towards the light, and the outer portion is not smooth. They are becoming wavy and crinkled, and chlorosis, as they are sucking the sap, the chlorophylls will be getting low, and because of that the chlorosis will occur. Maybe it will turn to into yellow color. The green color portions turn into yellow color, and yellowish and wither. After yellowing, this withering in the higher infestations, these leaves are going to be withered. In severe instances, what happens? Leaf and fruit drop and death of the plant. Yes, sometimes the plant cannot bear their damage, as their damage is very high. So then what happens? These leaves and fruits are getting dropped in the ground. So that is one thing. And if the infestation is very, very high, what happens? The total plant will go dead. So to control that, removal and burning of crop residues. So you should not allow any infested plant part in your crop cultivation. It should be actually burnt. The burning is considered as the most effective way of removing or destroying something, right? And removal of weeds alternate host plants. So in the absence of your crop in the field, they can rely on many other weed crops. So that they are called as host plants. Right? You should not allow any host plants in the field and at the same time in the surrounding area. And natural enemies. So this is also having natural enemies. Actually, ladybird, beetles, and lacewings. So these are common in the environment, but if they are not, we need to introduce them. So they will feed on them. So because of that, the mealybug population can be minimized. And chemical control, as we have discussed for pineapples, this can be also chemically controlled. Right? Here you will see how these are seen. So both the leaves and the fruits can be infested by this mealybug. Right? So usually the shady areas, the lowermost areas are occupied. Mostly the areas which are receiving better sunlight is not much affected by this mealybug, right? So here in the left top picture, you will see in the upper lower side of this leaves are occupied by this population. So they usually like to have shady conditions, right? Shady conditions, and then a higher population of mealybugs. And in the right one, you can see how severe the infestation is for the fruits. So the fruits become abnormal. So the sap of the fruits will be absorbed by these mealybugs, and because of that, no any proper formation, maybe deformed fruits will be formed, and at the same time, their quality is uh, reduced. And at the same time, the black color powdery nature will be there because of the sooty mold condition. Right? This sooty mold condition is also contributing here for much drastic uh, result. So this tree is highly infested by mealybug. Right? So we have talked about major pests of fruit crops, and now we will talk about major pests of vegetable crops. Right? And here we will talk about melon fly, bean fly, diamond back moth, cabbage looper, brinjal, shoot and pod borer, leaf miner, and onion thrips. So these are very common and major pests found in vegetable crops. Melon fly. We have talked about the fruit fly before. So here the melon fly, uh, Bactrocera cucurbitae. Right? Bactrocera dorsalis is the fruit fly. Bactrocera cucurbitae is the melon fly. So as the name gives the meaning, it attracted towards melon. Even though it is melon, it is not a fruit actually. Mainly on cucurbits. Cucurbit family Cucurbitaceae is a great example for the families of vegetables, right? So when we talk about vegetables other than fruits, we usually deal with the families, right? Families are important in vegetable cultivation other than the fruit cultivation. So then here the Cucurbitaceae, family Cucurbitaceae is a kind of a very major family in vegetable cultivations, mainly the gourds, the bitter gourd, snake gourds, likewise those gourd families, and these many type of vegetables are coming under cucurbits, right? So these cucurbitaceae family crops are highly attracted by this melon fly. Effective flowering and fruiting stages. So this is a fly. So here in their wings, two black color dots are there. So that is how we recognize melon fly from fruit flies. So these are affecting at the flowering and fruiting stages. Right? So the reproductive stage of the plant is mostly targeted by the melon fly and lay eggs under the skin, and larvae feed on the fruit. So the same as fruit flies. Right? The same damage will be there. So the larvae will come out after they have laid eggs under the skin of the specific Cucurbitaceae family vegetable. So then the larvae feed on the fruit. So the here name fruit means here the specific vegetable, right? So the control, as we have talked about the fruit fly, wrapping can be done for the fruit, for the specific vegetable. It can be covered by a wrapping, and we can go for the insecticides as well. Then another one, bean fly. Right? Beans, maybe you have heard about types, different types of beans are there, right? Bean fly. So beans are again attacked by this bean fly, bean family, the family Fabaceae. So this is much affected by the bean fly. So here in the left picture, you will see the fly at a tip of a leaf, and in the right side, you can see their specific damage, right? And this specific insect is shiny black color and about 3 millimeters long fly, very small fly, and it is shiny black in color. And they attack on beans, cowpea, pea, green gram seedlings. So their main target is seedlings. So about their feeding, feed on stem tissues. So this fly will lay eggs under the skin of the specific fruit or the pod, right? So usually these beans are pods, right? So they will again damage the skin of the pod and they lay eggs inside it, and then the larvae will come out and they feed on the stem tissues, right? Stem tissues will be eaten by the larvae, and then it comes to the pupal stage at base, right? So they will come to the base of the plant and they will start pupation. Again, we have insecticides to control this condition, right? So that is how we can minimize their incidence. So that is about bean fly. So diamond back moth. Diamond back moth is a kind of a kind of a fly, a moth, right? Diamond back moth. It is a lepidopteran. So here in the right side picture, you will see the adult. It is having a diamond shape, a kind of a sign in their back. Because of that diamond back moth, the name has given. Attack on all Brassicaceae crops, right? Their target crop species is Brassicaceae crops, the cabbage family, right? Cabbages are the most prominent ones in Brassicaceae family crops. So these leaves are the mostly targeted crop species for diamond back moth. So they will lay eggs and the larvae come out and then start pupation and become an adult. So larvae feed on leaves from underside. So what they do is that they, after laying eggs, so the larvae will come out and they will feed on the leaves from underside. And in the left picture, you will see the how the larvae is feeding on the underside of leaves. Right? These are actually worm-like structures, the caterpillars. So they will, so they are damaging crop. The crop cultivation, damaging stage of the cultivation will be the larvae. So for all these caterpillars, they have natural enemies, right? Natural enemies. So we do not want to introduce them in the environment. They are naturally occurring. And the sanitation, you should not keep anything infested with these type of pests in your field. And chemical control. So neem seed water extract is something, an organic one, organic suspension, so that can be used as a in chemical control insecticide. And novaluron, so that is a chemical, a synthetic insecticide. So you can spray it on them, so then the larvae will die. So this is diamond back moth. Again, a cabbage looper, again a kind of a caterpillar. Here you will see who is he. It and serious pest on crucifers. Again, a cruciferous family, again a cabbage family, and the um, uh, kind of cabbage family crops is considered as crucifers, and this especially these are again attracted toward the cruciferous family, the cabbage family. And this is also kind of a serious pest. Make irregular holes in leaves and feet. So they totally eat the leaf part, right? So then the effective photosynthetic area of the leaf will be reduced. And then almost all these caterpillars have natural enemies, so they eat them. So natural enemies are there, and you can go for the chemicals as well. Azadirachtin, so it is kind of uh, an extract produced from neem, right? Acetyldirect means the neem. So it will be acting as something toxic material for cabbage looper. Then brinjal shoot and pod borer. This is another very common uh, pest in brinjal cultivations. Shoot and pod borer. Again, it's a kind of a borer. And here you will see the adult, right? Mainly attack on brinjal and potato, right? So these are belong to family Solanaceae. So Solanaceae family crops are mainly targeted by this uh, pest, right? So this is also kind of lepidopteran. So this will larvae. Larvae is in white or pink color. So they are feeding on young stems and pods. Maybe you have seen some such kind of pods affected by brinjal shoot and pod borer. When you cut brinjal, inside of the brinjal there will be brown color tunnels, right? So this means that the fruit is damaged by the brinjal shoot and pod borer. So again, there are natural enemies in the natural environment. And if you see, if you in your monitoring program, if you see such kind of if infestations, you can manually remove the plant parts. And sanitation is again important. And chemicals we can go for is like this. So here you will see how the shoot portion is attacked. So even though the other mature leaves are they are well grown, right? In the middle portion, you will see some withering of the middle portion, right? Some are collapsed, right? Here you will see how you can identify the brinjal shoot and pod borer attack. So one thing is from the fruit, and then I think you can identify the plant which is affected by the brinjal shoot and pod borer by the collapsing or withering of the bud portion, the middle portion, because when they have attacked, right, when they have the larvae has attacked uh, the young shoot portion or the fruit portion, what happens? It becomes wither. Okay? It becomes wither because their target is the young leaf portion and the pods. Then the leaf miner. So leaf miner attack is very common. We have talked about citrus leaf miner before. So this leaf miner is available for vegetables as well, right? Again, the same scenario. So mainly larval stages of dipteran insects. So we cannot say what type of insect of is leaf miner is, because it depends on the specific order of the adult. But mainly it is dipteran insects. So here you will see it's very easy to identify. The middle lamina portion of the leaf will be seen in white or gray color because the mesophyll cell layer is totally damaged by their uh, sucking of the cell sap. So very difficult by pesticide resist to many, because the reason is that this specific leaf miner, it's a kind of worm-like structure, but it goes through the right middle of the leaf structure. So they are not underneath or upper layer of the leaves. They are exactly in the middle portion of the middle of these leaves, right? So then even though you are applying pesticide, they are not becoming contact to them. Because of that, they become resistant. right? Resistant to many of the pesticides. And trap to catch adults. So their adults are actually usually these Lepidopterans. You can, if you cannot control this leaf miner here, you can control the adults, the specific adult odor. An application of neem seed water extract. So that is one type of an organic solution. So it says that these are becoming toxic for this organic uh, condition. So this neem acidirecta, right? It will it will give this the toxicity to the leaf miner. Then onion. Onion is another, we call them condiments in vegetables, right? So onion thrips. So we will talk about thrips in the next session as well. Thrips are kind of a very small insect type, but they do much harm in higher population. So in onion cultivations, we have the problem from thrips, right? Onion thrips. So main host is onion. So for the onion thrips, their host plant is onion, right? There are different thrips types and they have different target species, right? And attack to leaves of very young plants because it is very tender, the structure is very tender, and attacking to them is very easy. Because of that, very young, immature plant parts are mainly targeted by almost all these pests, right? That is also something we can see as pinheads in the leaves, right? Not streak-like structures, not lines, but they are dot-like structures, right? Dot-like white color, uh, maybe light green color, pinhead-like structures here and there in the leaf. So we can correctly identify the onion thrips attack. And we can apply chemicals in the higher infestations as because the thrips are very small, we cannot manually remove them. So with that, we have come to the end. So we have talked about fruits, the major pests of fruits and vegetables. And actually, there are many, but these are the very common ones. And we need to identify what they are damaged and how they are going to damage these crops and what life stages, as we have discussed for the major pests of rice, what life stages are important to be controlled. And then we will be able to control them, especially in the sense of cultural practices, biological practices, and maybe we can go for the chemical application as well. But the integrated pest management, maybe you have heard about IPM, combination of strategies to control each and every pest is important, right? So we can include in a kind of pest management program can be produced by incorporating each one of these techniques, right? So this is how we should identify the controlling mechanism. So with that, we have come to the end. So I'm happy if you have any questions to answer.
Recording stopped.
So with that, we have come to the end of the second session as well. Hope you all don't have any questions from the first and second sessions. If you have any, please raise. It's totally fine. And if you don't understand anything regarded to what we have discussed for first and the second sessions, we can clarify them all before moving to the third one. And if I remember what we have discussed about the major pest types for rice, the paddy cultivation, and secondly, we have talked about the pest types we can identify easily, right, as a popular groups for fruits and vegetables. So thirdly, we will talk about again as pests in different crop category. So this is for ornamental plants, right? Pests of ornamental plants. So I think you can get an idea on what type of plants I am talking about. This is directly linked with the aesthetic value. So especially, so I'm representing the Department of Horticulture and Landscape Gardening. So crop cultivation is not just for the food consumption to provide food. It is also a kind of a thing that we can address for the gardening, landscaping activities, the beautification of the indoor and outdoor environment. So all these are coming under horticulture. So ornamental plants, especially most of them are annuals or biennials. So these ornamental plants, maybe some are perennials, of course, and especially these annuals and biennials are mostly affected by the pest and diseases. So here I think you all can see some mostly common species in Sri Lanka. The bougainvillea, so it's a kind of a flowering plant. A bush-like structure is there in the plant and mostly used in gardening activities. And in the middle, Calathea, maybe you have seen this plant. It's a common foliage plant in foliage plant industry. And in the rightmost corner, Gerbera, it's a cut flower used in cut flower industry. Likewise, the beautification of the environment is totally a kind of a important thing when it comes to the crop production other than for food production for every type of crop. So we will now talk about
Recording in progress.
pests of ornamental plants. So all these ornamental plants are also getting affected by the pest and diseases. So not only the food related crops, but also these ornamental plants. Right? So the mainly the aesthetic value is targeted. So we'll see what type of pests we can categorize for many of these ornamental plants. So if we take a look at what are considered as ornamentals, grown for ornamental purposes. Ornamental means it's kind of a value. It is a kind of a value which we target for the improvement of the environment, the quality of the environment, right? The aesthetic value. And grown in gardens or indoors. So both areas can be targeted for ornamental plants. Maybe you have heard about interior and exterior landscaping, right? So gardening concepts are there. So there are many principles, um, maybe some practices, techniques that we can use, apply. So proper techniques and applications should be applied for different scenarios, whether it is exterior or interior design. So most commonly for flowers, leaves, maybe for the aroma it gives or the scent, fruit and or stem. So these parts of the aerial environment parts will be mostly targeted for the ornamental uses. Purpose is the enjoyment of gardeners and visitors. So it's a kind of an enjoyment to please somebody when it comes to whatever the person who is visiting the area, right? So that is the main target, the main purpose, and also used in landscaping. Landscaping activities can be perfectly done by ornamental plants. So we'll see who are the major species of pests. Maybe you have seen these ones. So they are very common. I think almost all the areas of the country have these pests. Thrips, aphids, mealybugs, mites, scales, caterpillars, and slug and snails. So these are very common, and depending on the environmental conditions, maybe their existence is low, but many of the parts of the island, I think, know about these different pest types. So we'll see one by one. Thrips. Maybe you have heard about the thrips. So thrips is very small. So it's a kind of an insect which is very small. Maybe you can see in the right side picture, it is the length will be about 1 millimeter, right? So maybe uh, more millimeters will be occupied in very several numbers, not more than 5, right? So that much of small animals or insects are termed as thrips. So these are uh, very minute, and at the same time they are not available in single numbers. They are behaving as a population, right? So color variation is there. Actually, it is very maybe many colors: yellow, light brown, banded, or black. Banded means two different colors are banding as stripes, right? So likewise, there's a kind of a variety of colors, and what they do is that their mouth parts, how they damage is that they have rasping type mouth parts. අපි කියනවා මේ සිංහලේ සූරනවා කියලා සූරලා තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ මේ ඩැමේජ් කරන්නේ මේ සූරල යාලට ඕන දේවල් යාගේ මේ මුඛ උපාංග වලට ලබා ගන්නවා. Rasping, we call it rasping, right? So many of the body parts of the plant are infested by these thrips, and once they have done the damage, the specific plant part become curled or distorted. So distortion means a kind of a misshapen behavior. The proper shape or the form that we expect from the specific plant part will be not there, right? Maybe the nature will be a curled like structure. It is getting short, and the shape will be misshapen. So this nature will be known as distortions, right? Curled or distorted with silver gray scars or calloused areas, right? So silver gray color scars will be there because when they rasp the plant parts, the sap of the specific cells will be extracted to their bodies. So with that, many of the green color parts, especially if it is green color, or at the same time, these are attacking to flowers and fruits are also, right? So they have different colors. So whatever the color it is, it may be vanished, and silver gray color scars will be there because that area has been rasped. The specific kind of a color is there to give the color for that plant part. So all this liquid, the kind of a juice-like structure is there for the color. This juice is absorbed into their bodies, right? So with their damage, these areas, the areas which are damaged, will produce calloused areas, a kind of a callus. We call it a callus, a kind of a tumor-like area. So likewise, that will be a kind of a reaction that plant have for the damage that they have done, and transmit viruses to many ornamentals. So they are acting as, again, I think I have mentioned that their damage is the first-hand damage, and at the same time they act as vectors, right? They transmit especially the viral diseases from one plant to another. So this is what it is shown, how it is shown in other parts of the plant parts, especially in the rose cultivation. If it damages the rose flowers, what happens? So the color, the exact color of the rose petals will be vanished, and because of their damage, it becomes brown, right? It becomes brown color. And as I have mentioned earlier, these are not behaving as single insects. Usually a population will be there in any part. So then the whole population will do the damage, and because of that damage, the damaged plant part will turn into brown color. So in the right hand side, it's a kind of a chrysanthemum. Kapuru kela, kapuru kule තියෙන මලක්. So this chrysanthemum type flower is also has affected by these thrips. There you can see the perfect orange color is vanished in some areas, and gray white color spots are there in large quantities in several areas. So this is a sign of thrips damage. And if you want to see them in Sri Lanka, it is very common so there's a kind of a plant called Ficus benjamina. Maybe the benjamina plant is very common. Benjamina term is very common. So this plant usually have these thrips in this plant, right? So ficus plant damaged by thrips. Usually most of these benjamina plants are damaged by thrips attack. So if you look at a kind of a plant of Ficus benjamina, so their leaves actually they have been closed in nature, so they are not spreaded totally towards the light, and they are sometimes the two edges are fastened. So if you remove that fastened edges and see inside, you will see number of thrips inside, right? So that is a very common condition in benjamina plants, and where you can see them very easily. So when it comes to damage, appearance varies with the host plant. So as I have mentioned earlier, if it is a foliage plant, a fruit or flower, so the appearance become vary because the specific color will vanish, right? And prefer to feed on very young succulent parts. So all these pests, most of these pests are much attracted towards the very young succulent parts, the immature parts. So it may be immature fruits, flowers, or foliage. So all these immature plant parts are targeted to these thrips because it is very easy for them to extract the sap. And both the adult and the immature, so these are having a kind of incomplete life cycle. So adult and the immature, the nymph and the adult, both will feed on the plant parts, especially within unopened anthurium. Anthurium cultivation is a kind of a cut flower cultivation, and at the same time potted plants are also there. So these flowers, mostly the flowers are attacked by thrips. So if the anthurium flower is still unopened, so we call the spathe, what we can see as colored petal, the spathe. So they attack to them as well. So white streaks or scary lines can be seen if they have attacked, right? Deformed spathes with age bronzing of injured tissue. So the next thing is in the early stages, this damage can be seen in a white or gray color, silver color like color. So when the time goes by, as this is an injury to the plant, it becomes bronze color or the brown color. In severe cases, these flowers, mainly the almost all flowers, fail to open, right? If it is very severe in damage, it fails to open and it remains as a bud, right? And foliage deform, bronzing, and streaking both can be seen in foliage. And reduce plant growth. In severe infestations, for almost all crop types, they reduce plant growth. In here, you will see how their damage is for the leaves of anthurium. So it's a kind of a complex of things in this leaves of this anthurium cultivation. At the same time, their cultivation is not much healthy, and at the same time, mostly the thrips damage have been found in this cultivation. Mainly the bronze color, the brown color areas are totally because of this thrips attack. Right? It's a heavier infestation, and when it comes to the unopened spathes of anthurium, here you will see thrips damaging anthurium flower bud. right? It is not open, it is an unopened bud, but here you won't see the exact color. Some areas are rasped by the thrips, and the perfect color producing areas are now absent. And if it is this is produced for export market, this will not be accepted as a good exportable product, right? So if a grower or a farmer is intending to do a cultivation targeting export market, this type of flowers will not be accepted. So here are some more flowers which are open. Thrips damaging anthurium flower. So this damage is done for the open flowers, right? So see the color difference in spathe, right? So the spathe and the spadix. So these two parts are there in anthurium flower. Spadix is what you can see in the middle as a column. Spathe is the petal-like structure that gives color, and there's no any uniform color in these flowers. They are ununiform. They are not even. Some areas are highly affected by the thrips attack. So these are not accepted. Even for the local market as well, no one like to buy these type of flowers. And if you get any flowers from your cultivation like this, so you cannot market that for a good value. So these are thrips damaging dendrobium orchids, right? Orchid flowers are also targeted by these thrips. Here you will see how they have attacked flowers and leaves of orchid, right? The perfect color, the green color is vanished in leaves, and the purple color in petals of orchid is absent, right? This is the damage, how they are seen.
මැඩම් ත්‍රිප්ස් කියන කූඩිත්තොද?
ඔව් අපි කූඩිත්තෝ කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ. කූඩිත්තෝ කියලාත් කියනවා. තව ඒෆිඩ්ස්ලා කියලා තව කට්ටියක් ඉන්නවා. අපි ඉස්සරහට කතා කරමු. එයාලටත් කූඩිත්තෝ කියලා සමහරු කියනවා. කූඩිත්තෝ කියලා කියන්න එයාලට මම හිතන්නේ ත්‍රිප්ස්ලාට වෙන නමක් මම හිතන්නේ තියෙන්නේ. තව කූඩිත්තෝ කියලා කියන කට්ටියක් ඉන්නවා. ඒෆිඩ්ස් කියලා අපි කියනවා. එයාලටත් කියනවා. මේගොල්ලෝ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දකින්න පුළුවන් මේ ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මේ මම අර කියපු බෙල්ජිමිනා ගස්වල ගොඩක් ඉන්නවා. දැනට හැමතැනකම වගේ ඉන්න අය ගත්තොත් පොදුවේ සමහර විට ඔයාලා දැකලා නැතුව ඇති ගොඩක් පොඩි කළු පාටට හුරුයි ගොඩක් අය. ගොඩක් පොඩි. ගොඩක් පොඩි පොපියුලේෂන් එක ගොඩක් වැඩියෙන් ඉන්නේ. අර තනියම ඉන්නේ නැහැ. ගොඩාක් දෙනෙක් එක්ක ඉන්නේ. ඊටාම කුඩයි මේ සතා. Right? So let's see how we can control this non-chemical control. Yes, we initially go for the non-chemical control. So biological control is there in the nature. So predators, right? Predatory attack is there. Certain lacewings. So lacewing is a kind of a predatory a kind of an insect. And ladybird beetles, predatory mites, and ants. Some ants are also eating these thrips, right? So these are acting as predators, and several fungi. Some fungi species have found if they eat these fungi, they get died, right? And these are biological control methods, and cultural methods. What we can do for the cultural methods: remove infested flowers and foliage. What we can do is removal, of course, but this should be done in the very early stages. So that is the most important thing you should know. If the infestation is very high, it is very hard for you to identify the plant parts to remove, right? Maybe whole plant is now occupied by this thrips, right? So you need to have a good monitoring practice. If not, you will not find in their early incidental. So remove infested flowers, foliage both, right? Any part of the plant, if it is infested by few number of thrips, you need to remove them and control weeds, grass, and all stock plants. If you have all stock plants, it's a kind of a good, especially these all stock plants are something that you are maintaining to get the planting materials. So unlike your specific cultivation, they are in the field for a very long time. So if they are very old, you need to remove these stock plants because that is something we do in ornamental plant industry. So when you have a kind of a cut flower cultivation or foliage cultivation, maybe a potted plant cultivation, uh, especially the farmers or the growers, what they do is that not like fruits, vegetables, or rice, they have their own cultivations which have done previously. And when they need planting materials, they used to get them from that cultivation. That is called mother stock cultivation, mother stock plants. So these plants are there for a longer time, and thereby these thrips can be there even the cultivation is not started. Right? So those type of plants, the old mother stock plants and weeds, grasses, so they can act as host plants. Because of that, all these should be uh, actually removed from the field. Use thrips free propagative materials. When we get propagative materials, we need to make them pest free or the thrips free, right? If you are getting something a kind of a planting material from a person which is having thrips, it will be the starting point of the thrips infestation. අපි සිංහලෙන් මට මතක් වුණේ එක කියන්න මේ ත්‍රිප්ස්ලට අපි කියනවා මැක් පැලමැක්කෝ කියලා තමයි අපි කියන්නේ පැලමැක්කා කියලා. ත්‍රිප්ස්ලා දැන් මේකෙදි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපිට ඕන වෙන්නේ ornamental plants වලට ලොකු හානියක් මෙයාගෙන් වෙනවා. ඊට අමතරව අපි රයිස් වල උනත් පැලමැක්කෙක් ඉන්නවා. පැලමැක්කෝන්ගේ හානිය තියෙනවා ගොඩක්. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ හානිය සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපිට සිවියර් ඩැමේජ් එකක් නොවි බලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් ornamental plants වලට එයාලගේ සිවියර් ඩැමේජ් එකක් තියෙනවා. අන්න ඒ හින්දා තමයි අපි කියන්නේ පැලමැක්කන්ගේ හානිය. කූඩිත්තන්ට අපි කියනවා aphids. aphidsලා කියලා තමයි අපි කියන්නේ. අපි ඉස්සරහට ඒගොල්ලෝ ගැන කතා කරමු. So it's a different type of pest. If those non-chemical controlling methods are not working, we can go for the chemical control. Phytotoxicity, right? Phytotoxicity may occur under hot, dry, and conditions. Phytotoxicity means something, a toxic condition which is raised by these chemicals, right? So very hot, dry conditions will cause some sort of toxic conditions for the plants. So we should not apply under very hot, dry conditions these chemicals. So if it will create a kind of a phytotoxicity in plants. So these are chemicals. Actually, these are pesticides. These can be used to control the higher infestations. Then actually the aphids. Aphids. So it's a different type of pests, and at the same time as like the thrips, they have a very high infestation in ornamental plant industry. Common troublesome insects, so these are very troublesome if they are not maintained very well, if the conditions are not monitored. So when we consider about their morphology, they are pear-shaped, soft-bodied insects, right? pears ගෙඩියක වගේ හැඩයක් තියෙන්නේ. ඒ වගේම බොහොම මේ tender body එකක්. පොඩි මේ ඊටාම මෘදු ඇඟක් තමයි තියෙන්නේ. කුංචි ඊටාම කුඩයි. හැබැයි thrips වලට වඩා ටිකක් ප්‍රමාණය විශාලයි. Vary in color from light green to dark brown, right? Green color ones are very common. Light green color will be very common. Maybe I will show you the photographs. You will identify that these have been seen by you. and it may lead to dark brown as well and may go undetected in severe infestations, um, honeydews and sooty mold. So I have mentioned about honeydew. So especially some insects, they secrete some sugary substances. So this is called honeydew. So that is not actually a harm for us, but uh, a kind of microorganisms will have this honeydew as their feeding material, and because of that it will grow on that excreta or the substance, sugar substance, and then they will cover the photosynthetic area, the productive leaf area. Usually this is seen as black color. We call it sooty mold, right? So it's a fungus. This fungi species, this fungal species will uh, have this honeydew as their feeding material. So however, it will cover the whole upper portion of the leaves mostly, and then the photosynthetic area will go down. So that is what happens. And if these conditions are here, usually these aphids are go unnoticed because they cannot be seen because of the black color, right? And attack on many plants, ornamental vegetables and fruits. So the attack is there as thrips for every type of uh, crop categories. So their infestations can lead to distorted new growth. Right? They also target the new growths of the plants because they are very tender, very immature, easy to attack. So distortions, the misshapen behavior, and weak plants, the plant vigor will go down. And in extreme cases, stunted growth can be seen in the plantlets or the seedlings in very early stages of the crop growth. If these aphids are going to attack, their growth will be stunted. අපි කියන කුරු වෙනවා කියලා. So these are the ones that are known as aphids. I think you all have seen these ones, right? Aphids. Mostly they prefer to be in a kind of lower most areas which are shady, not exposed to the sunlight, and mainly the lower parts of the leaves, flowers. So they again suck the cell sap, right? So in a population, different stages of the uh, growth cycle can be seen, maybe along with other types of pests as well. So they are not alone in plant parts. There may be some other pests as well, right? So this is how they are seen. Especially in ornamental plant industry, they are very common in very few plants. We call them a colony, right? A population of aphids, a population of these pests are known as colony. Colony of aphids on rose flowers. So this is very common. Maybe you have seen them in rose flowers, uh, especially surrounding the rose buds and the newly opened flower buds. So they are much attracted towards the new growths, the new tender parts, and because of that, other than in the mature parts, these aphids are much high in population surrounding the buds. And Hedera helix is a kind of a foliage creeper. It's a vine. So the lowermost picture, there also you will see in the tender portion about black color aphids are there. So it's another existence. Maybe the species is different, but these are aphids, right? They suck the cell sap from the tender parts. So to control them, relatively easy to control. Not like thrips. Actually, we can control these aphids. And natural parasites and predators are there in the natural environment. And we can wash off using a forceful stream of water. If not a pressurized water stream, we can wash them, right? And we can also apply insecticides like these. These are very common. And this is how we can get rid of them. And if you notice them in the early stages in the incidence, you can remove the plant parts. Then mealybugs. We have talked about mealybugs in pineapple mealybugs, but mealybugs are everywhere. So they attack to many of the plant types, and these actually appear as white cottony masses. They are very, most of them are white in color, and a cotton-like structure, cotton-like appearance, texture is there in their body. And also, as we have mentioned earlier also, aphid strips. So these mealybugs are also behaving as a population. They are not acting as single pests. They have a population, right? So altogether, when it comes to all together, it's like a cottony mass. නිකන් පුළුන් ගොඩක් වගේ තමයි පේන්නේ. They are very common in leaf axis, right? The leaf, the petiole section of the leaf, and the lower surfaces of leaves, and the mainly on the roots, right? Mainly the shady areas of the plant will be occupied by mealybugs. And these are very common in the presence of these honeydew sooty mold conditions. So if any part of this honeydew and sooty mold is found, so that usually is occupied by, again, mealybugs. And infested plants become stunted. Severe infestations, parts begin to die. They are also doing a very high damage. They can suck the cells up very fast. And if it is a kind of an immature plant, it will do more harm. And we can use a pressurized water column, or else we can apply some insecticides. Here you will see how they are seen, a single one and a kind of a population, how we can see them. So they are very common in the underside of the leaves, leaf axis, leaf petioles, right? Shady areas, very quiet shady areas will be much preferred by the mealybugs. So here, mainly this is very common in hibiscus plant, right? වද ශාකේ වද ගස් තියෙන ඒවා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඉන්නවා. This is how they are seen. They are not acting as one single pest. They are acting as a population, and it takes very little time for them to increase their population. Then another type, mites. Mites කියලා කියන mite ආව කියලා කියන්නේ. Actually there are different species. There's not any single species that do the harm. They are very tiny. Actually they are microscopic organisms. Maybe we can identify as a very tiny dot-like structure from our eyes, but to have the specific idea of their morphology, we need to use the microscope, right? So this is a microscopic view of mites. They are from that only we can identify the specific parts of the mite to categorize them under different categories. They are also sucking insects, suck the cell sap, and at the same time they act as viral vectors. So here how they are seen like this, very tiny. We cannot specifically these parts of the body cannot be identified correctly by our eyes, right? And they are very small, unnoticed until severe damage. As they cannot be seen by our eyes, we cannot identify their damage until they are coming into a very high population. That is a disadvantage. Damaged foliage turn yellow or become speckled, right? Again, the same type of damage will be there. They will damage the foliage, and the damage will turn into, as they are sucking the cell sap, the greenery nature will be lower, and they become speckled, a kind of a distortion. right? Wavy appearance, wrinkled appearance will be there. At high density, we can easily find their high density of population by webbing. Webbing means අපි කියනවාට මකුළු දැලක් වගේ දැලක් බඳිනවා මෙයා. ඒ දැලෙන් තමයි හොයාගන්න පුළුවන් mites ලා ඉන්නවා කියලා. If not, we cannot identify single mites. We can easily find their presence by webbing. So they, as a population, make a web underneath of the, mostly the underneath of the leaves, right? So it's better if you have a cultivation, do check the underside of the leaves because number of pest types can be identified by underside of the leaves. And loss of leaves by the higher amount of sucking of cell sap, some leaves fall down. And maybe in severe cases, the whole plant will die. And especially this is a very common application, sulfur dust. Application of sulfur dust can be used to control mite, right? They are much susceptible for sulfur dust, so they will get died, right? And abamectin, so it's a chemical, it's an insecticide, so that can be used if you need to have them when no other works well. So here you will see how their damage is seen. Very tiny spots, a lot of spots in a very close area can be identified. So two-spotted spider mite is a kind of a one type, one category. Two-spotted spider mites attack in impatiens leaves. Impatiens is a kind of a potted plant. So this potted plant has been infested by these mites. So it seems like chlorosis, but it is not chlorosis or any other nitrogen deficiency. Maybe if we do not correctly identify this, maybe we come across with deficiency symptoms as well, but they are not, right? We need to correctly identify their presence. So this mites attack is very common again in rose plants. Right? Damage to rose flower by spider mites. So many of the flowers may be totally covered by webbing, and mites and their webbing on leaf of rose. So these webs are made by mites, right? So this is not the spiders that we know. This is the webs made by mites. So here and there, very tiny dot-like structures can be seen. So those are the mites, but our eyes are unable to identify them very correctly with their body parts. So we need to take one or two under the microscope to correctly identify their presence. Maybe I think you have seen these conditions maybe in your home gardens. So you need to get some action. If not, the plants will get mostly affected by their presence. Then we have another one, the scales, right? Scales is a kind of another type of maybe you have seen those things, scales. These are another type of pests that we have in most ornamental plant species. They are also sucking insects. Because of that, sucking the sap, weakened standard or death of the plant can be expected. As we have discussed, most of them are sucking insects. And they feed on leaves, petiole, stems. Right? So these areas will be mostly targeted. The petioles and the stems part. Right? So mostly common in these hard areas of the plant. And round to oval shapes are there in these body types. And color varies from white or light to dark brown. Right? We can use insecticides to control them. So here are the scales. I think you all have seen these. Right? Mainly the mature parts of the plant will be targeted by them. There's a color variation, very high color variation. So they are very tightly attached to the plant part. It is really hard to remove them, and they have very tight kind of a outer cover, right? Outer cover is sometimes shiny and dark color. Light color ones are also there, and it is difficult to remove them. We need to make some force to remove them, right? They are tightly attached and sucking the sap. Then caterpillars. Maybe we have talked about much about caterpillars. So they are worm-like structures, but their body size will be different, right? So if you can see in these two pictures, some are feeding on leaves and some are on petals, right? Both are actually having a greater bad impact on these ornamental plants because leaves and flowers are both equally important in ornamental plant industry. So larval stages of moths and butterflies. So what we used to know as used to call as caterpillars are the larval stage of many moths and butterflies. So we don't know actually what the species is, but uh, all the caterpillars you see in the environment are the larval stages of some type of a this complete life cycle of a species. So that is the thing we can say. Mostly they belong to the moths and butterflies, right? So these large size caterpillars are usually the moths and butterflies and many non-specific caterpillars. So by looking at caterpillars, we cannot say that exactly the species. We need to identify the specific characteristics of the caterpillar to identify its correct species. Large chunks chewed from new leaves and buds. So again, this one also much attracted towards the immature, tender plant parts. Maybe it is buds, leaves, flowers, right? So caterpillars means a kind of a very general term. There's no specific one type of caterpillar. So in these two pictures also you will see the morphology is different. Right? If we need to identify what is the correct species, we need to identify their uh, correct morphology and then we can categorize into which species it belongs to. To control the best practice, check every day and pick off, right? So that is very easy because they are in large body size, right? We can easily find them. Many flowering plants are much infected by those type of very large caterpillars. So these caterpillars can easily removed by manual removal if you notice them in the very correct stage. And spray Bacillus thuringiensis, maybe you have heard about this one, BTI, right? This is known as BTI, reapplied frequently. Have you heard about Bacillus thuringiensis before in any subject or what?
Yes,
Yes, what does this do? What is happening?
ජෛව පලිබෝධනාශකයක් විදිහට.
Oh, පලිබෝධ නාශකයක් විදිහට. එතකොට මොකද මෙයා කරන්නේ? දන්නවද මෙයා so it's a bacteria. So what happens? So spray Bacillus thuringiensis on top of the plants. What happens then?
මෙයා අර කීට අවස්ථාවල් මේ ගිලලා දාන නාස්ති කරනවා.
Oh, මෙයා මයික්‍රෝබ් කෙනෙක් එතකොට. එතකොට මෙයාලා දැන් කනවනේ කැටපිල අපේ මල් පෙති හරි කොළ හරි කකා යන ගම මෙයාවත් එයාට කැවෙනවා. හරි? ඒතර බැසිලස් එක්කිනාවත් එයාට BTI කැවෙනවා. එතකොට වෙන්නේ මොකද්ද මේ BTI ගිහිල්ලා මෙයාගේ ආහාර මාර්ගයේ ඇතුලේ තියෙන බිත්ති විනාශ කරනවා. එතකොට වෙන්නේ මෙයාගේ ආහාර මාර්ග පද්ධතිය බිඳ වැටෙනවා. මෙයාට ගොඩක් බඩගින්න ඉන්න වෙනවා, කන්න බෑ. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ කැටපිල ටිකක් ගියාම ලෙඩ වෙනවා යාව. එයාට කන්න බැරුව යනවා. එයාගේ මේ ඇතුලේ ඩැමේජ් වෙන නිසා. එයාගේ ආහාර මාර්ග ජීර්ණ පද්ධතිය වැඩ කරන්නේ නැතුව යනවා හරියට. මෙයාට කන්න බැරි වෙලා මෙයා මැරෙනවා. හරි? So the caterpillar will get affected by its digestive system. So it will be damaged by Bacillus thuringiensis, right? It will the walls of the digestive system will be damaged by Bacillus thuringiensis. Because of that, it will have to starve. So these caterpillars will die because of the starvation. So that is how this Bacillus thuringiensis is used to control caterpillars. So it's a biological control. It is known as biological control. So without the feeding material for Bacillus thuringiensis, it will not be there for a very long time. So we need to reapply them frequently. අපි එහෙම මොන හරි බයොලොජිකල් කන්ට්‍රෝල් එකක් කරනකොට අපිට එක දෙයක් තියෙනවා. මොකද දැන් අපිට ඉන්න පෙස්ට් කෙනෙක්ව කන්ට්‍රෝල් කරන්න තමයි තව කවුරු හරි ප්‍රිඩේටර් කෙනෙක් පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. නමුත් ප්‍රිඩේටර්ට කෑම නැති වුණොත් හරි ප්‍රිඩේටර් යැපෙන්නේ අපේ පෙස්ට් මත වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් එයාට බැරි වෙලාවත් කෑම නැති වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? එයා මැරෙනවා. ප්‍රිඩේටර් මැරුණොත් අපිට වැඩේ කරගන්න බෑ. හරි ඒ නිසා ප්‍රිඩේටර්ව මැරෙන්නේ නැතුව තියාගන්න අපි මොන හරි ටෙක්නික් එකක් පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක කේස් බයි කේස් නැත්තම් මේ මොකක්ද ඒ අවස්ථාව අනුව එක වෙනස් වෙනවා. So if the pest is available, that is fine. If not, if we have, especially these predators are very high in cost, and if you are intending to release some predators to your crop cultivation, you need to think about their feeding material. Unless it is having this pest for their feeding material, what else you can provide for them, for the predators? If not, predators will die. Right? If there are no any feeding material for predators, they will get died. So there's no point of buying them and applying them to your cultivation, because we do not expect their death. We do need to make them alive and pests to die. Right? So that is the case. And if not, we can go for the insecticides and we can apply them in correct recommendation, the concentrations. And actually the slugs and snails, right? So I think you know the difference. Here you will see snails. අපි කියනවා ගොළු බෙල්ලෝ කියලා. ගොළු බෙල්ලන්ට තියෙනවා අර කවචයක්. So the snails have a very high, a hard exterior portion, a shell-like structure. So that is how we recognize the snails. And slugs, actually slugs don't have that sort of a exterior outer cover. They are very tender and very slurry nature, sluggish nature will be there, and only the skin portion is there as the outer cover, and they are damaged, right? So slugs and snails both together do the same harm, right? They feed on leaves and tender stems, etc. Right? So again, these are also found in the very tender portions, because they have large number of teeth. Even we cannot see, they have large number of teeth in their mouth, and they eat or really eat maybe large chunks of these leaves, as caterpillars will be eaten by them, and they chew them, right? ඒගොල්ලෝ හපන්න පුළුවන්, හපලා කන්න පුළුවන්. So for this action, these tender portions are very much needed for both of them, right? So then they will, so here you will see the damage, right? So they eat the whole productive area. The total productive area will be eaten. So we need some amount of photosynthesis as well, because we expect the flowering stage. So it requires some amount of energy for the plant to enter into the reproductive phase from vegetative phase. So if the productive area is less, so it will be a problem. So to control them, we can collect and destroy. If there is lesser amount, we can collect them and destroy all the the damaged parts along with the specific snail. So this slugs, we can remove them from the field condition. And we can also have some kind of traps. We call them baits, right? ඇමක් අපි කියන ඇමක් දානවා කියලා ඇමක් විදිහට අපි පාවිච්චි කරනවා. So there is a kind of two types. Meta is something that we can get from the shops. It is available, and if you apply meta, so it is very common, everyone knows that. So they become dyed because of that application. And alcohol, at the same time, it's a trap. So if you put some alcohol to a kind of a small container and keep in the field, so the snails and slugs come into this alcohol trap. So they do not get dyed. They like to have that taste, right? So then they will collect it in the alcohol trap. It's a trap, and the meta will actually make them die. And at the same time, salt. So salt is a kind of a distractor. It's a kind of a repellent, right? විකර්ෂකයක් විදිහට වැඩ කරනවා, අයින් කරනවා, එන්න දෙන්නේ නැතුව තියෙන එක. Salt. So they do not like salt. So if you put a kind of salt line, so they do not cross that line, right? So that's a kind of a repellent activity. So likewise, these actions can be taken to control these snails and slugs. So for an example, in orchid cultivation, their presence is very high, as these moist conditions, very high humidity and the moistened conditions in orchid cultivations is very favorable for them as well, because these snails and slugs are much available in the wet zone, actually, in the wet moistened conditions. So in the areas of these having wet conditions, moistened, humidity, so they like to have that condition, and at the same time they will feed on the planting material. So in orchid industry, these snails and slugs are the most disastrous. It is considered as the most disastrous pest condition in orchid industry, right? So these conditions are vary for different sectors, but these are the very common pests found in the ornamental plant industry, which are very problematic, right? If you do not consider and monitor very well, because in ornamental plant industry, the next most thing is that the density of the cultivation is very high, right? So if one get attacked by the pest, so it will very fast uh, transmitted to another, right? If it is a commercial business, it's a commercial ornamental plant industry, so it will be a massive damage that sometimes the cost of production will go very up, and then the marketable value will go down. So that is something important when it comes to maintenance of commercial ornamental plant industries. So it is very common that we can do many manual methods in home level, home scale level, in our home gardens, but it is not the same as for commercial maintenance. So in commercial cultivations, we have large number of plants together in a very limited area. So once get attacked, the others will get the attack very easily in a very short time period. So then we need to have a good monitoring program, and we need to have more labor, more people to apply those control methods and to have these monitoring activities in ornamental plant industry. So that's it. So with that, I have come to the end as well. So with that, we have completed the first, second, and third sections. And altogether, we have discussed about pests in different categories. So I'm happy if you have any questions, you can ask. So the first two categories were mainly considered for the food-related productions. So it is important that it will damage the fruit crop, the food-related crops, because it will do some damage for our food, because the rice, fruits, and vegetables are considered as food for humans, right? So it will directly impact, the pest damage will directly impact for our food. That is why we need to take action in the presence of these pest attack for those food crops. But here in this session, this one is for the ornamental effect, but that is also important as every crop is not intended for providing food, right? So these crops are the specific ornamental plant industry plants are intended to give us a kind of a pleasure, a beautification. So that is also important. But as they are raised in artificial environment and in under the human influence, there's a great probability of having pest attacks because it is not in the natural environment anymore, right? Maybe if you are having one or two plants in the garden, that will be not problematic because naturally the pests will be uh, controlled because every pest has its own natural predator, right? So they will be available in the natural environment. But studying of these pest and pest damages and their controlling mechanisms is important when you maintain a commercial practice because it is under human control, right? So in the natural environment, even though there are natural predators, in the artificial environment, we won't incorporate those in our environment. So that is why we cannot usually sometimes control the whole lot of these damages and incidences. So what we need to identify is that uh, we need to correctly identify the damage, right? So we should not complicate them with any deficiency symptoms, any other physiological disorders of the plant, or any other kind of a disease condition. We should correctly identify the pest and the pest damage, and then only we can go for the correct controlling strategy. If not, it will do a kind of a economic threat. So that is the thing we need to identify, and I wanted to give you from these 3 sessions. So I'm happy if you have any questions to ask, so I can answer them. So as we have done these 3, if you have any cultivations on your own, please do have a look. So now you know what type of pests we can uh, maybe suspect from these cultivations. Maybe now you can think of if you have been given a kind of a task to find or identify a new pest that others don't know, or maybe your friends may be asking you to have some information on pests. So now you can suspect or you can give a kind of a uh, guidance on whether this may be the pest that you are talking about and this may be the controlling strategies. So you should know what type of controlling strategies are there and how they could be applied. So I think you have got some information, and at the same time, the classifications and the pest and disease, the overview for the pest and diseases, all are important when it comes to the correct identification, because identification is the most important thing. Other than that, uh, the next stages are the application of the correct controlling strategy. So at the same time, I should remember that uh, every controlling strategy should be nature friendly, right? So that is why we usually not recommend the pesticide application in the first sense. So those are actually synthetic chemicals that have been produced, and many argue that they have different negative impacts to our health as well. So we should not encourage the application of pesticides in the first sense. That is the maybe the last way, the final out way of getting rid of these pest attacks, not the first or the any other first hand uh, our applications. So we should get nature friendly mechanisms to get away from these pests. Otherwise, it may sometimes the large quantity of application of large concentrations will make sure that you are getting that the humans are getting more vulnerable impacts by the pesticides. So other than that, we need to have some monitoring practices and other ways, maybe the organically produced, maybe we have discussed about the neem extract. So that is something having a very various amount of applications because it's a organic natural repellent, right? Acidic is the chemical that it has, the neem. So we have many wide applications. It is now on the shops as well, sale. So if we can go to that sort of natural, nature-friendly applications, we can get rid of these ones very easily. And we need to get some more actions to have nature-friendly ways to get out of these pests. So that is what I was intended to give you. So if you have any questions, you can raise. If not, we can wind up the session. So as you don't have any questions, I think it's time to wind up. So thank you very much for all for being with me for these 3 sessions. Hope you got an idea. And if you need any help regarding these 3, you can access me. And again, thank you very much. And I will stop at this point. And have a nice day. Thank you.